There we go. All right. Technical problems. Oh. All right. reconvene the public meeting. Roll call. We have all 7 board members here, and from McNair, we have Elisa and Bubba. No Tokay today, huh?
No, senior grad.
Ah, well, that's probably pretty important.
I'd rather do Catholic than here.
Okay, Elisa, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
3 items in closed session to report on. Mr. Nava motioned and Mr. Hebley seconded, and the board approved the appointment of Katie Grisham as elementary vice principal, located to be determined, effective date to be determined by the vote of 7-0. The second item was Mr. Neely motioned and Mr. Porter seconded, and the board approved the appointment of Sarah Santana as elementary vice principal, location to be determined, effective date to be determined by the following vote, 7-0. And the third item, Mr. Freitas motioned, Mrs. McFarland seconded, and the board approved the appointment of Carrie Ridenour as program coordinator, curriculum and instruction, effective date to be determined by the following vote of 7-0. And that was it for closed session. All right. We have a spotlight. Magnitude IO. Ms. Katowski, there you are. How about it?
Yeah, I know, I'm so short, I get lost in the crowd back here. Good evening, President Knackstead and members of the board, Dr. Washer. I'm going to introduce Ted and Tony from Magnitude IO. They're going to share a little synopsis and some testimonials of what they have been working with our students from a couple of years ago to now, and maybe where we're going to go in the future. So Ted and Tony, or whoever would like to come up.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Good evening. So we've been with Lodi now for about 3.5 seasons, and we've just been astounded by the engagement of the students and the faculty, and now we've engaged the librarians. Our vision when we started was to actually put Lodi into space, and we've done that. In February 2017, the first payload from Lodi Unified School District actually went to the International Space Station, and project number 6 is actually scheduled to go up in July. So, kudos to the librarians and the teachers for rallying around that. We've had a really exciting, more terrestrial experience with your schools as well. That's our high altitude balloons and our high pod rockets. A little disappointment this year, it was getting so popular that not only had Lodi and Manteca joined our endeavor to launch rockets out east of Stockton, but Stockton joined us as well, and that they basically said that's too many people. So we scrambled and actually did an amazing work with your younger students that had a chance to launch rockets and think about the physics behind it. Of course, all this is driven behind the next generation science standards, taking science and engineering practice and bringing them together. And if you pick up the latest issue of Make magazine, there's some coverage of both the district and other activities that we've done. So I'm pretty proud of the work that the students have done. And in addition to that, the robot that's in the front is a robot that NASA has just commissioned, and it's on station. It's been up there about a month. It's called Astrobeam. And we're so grateful that NASA has approved us as guest scientists. And so what we're going to do, and what would you put on a robot, right? A lot of different things. We're going to add a digital nose. And so while we're smelling the International Space Station, we hope students here terrestrially will be able to investigate the air around them and then make that connection with health and wellness, air quality. So I can go on and on, but what I wanted to do is recognize a few teachers and a librarian tonight for the work that they've done, outstanding work to engage their students, create excitement and interest. So first, Christina, if you can come up. Christina has a morning class at high school, astronomy, and at 7:20 in the morning, it's hard for me to get there. But the tenacity and doggedness, and we saw these sleepy students turn into really excited young people as they launch a high-altitude balloon to about 100,000 feet, having their own experiments in it. So Christina, Tony, I don't know. Just wanted to thank you and for your work, and I'm looking forward to working with them again next year as well. And so for astronomy, it was thinking about exoplanets and exploring other planets beyond Earth. And so contextually, the high altitude would be as if you had visited Earth, what you would do. And I understand they were also exploring the other planets and moons as well.
That's right.
Mhm.
And engineering.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What we wanted to be able to do, we heard the mandate at the beginning of the school year that literacy was really foundational, third grade literacy. And so we coordinated with your librarians and we thought how we could extend the engagement and excitement about reading. And we installed the ExoLab, these laboratories that connect to the International Space Station, right there in your libraries. We added a live stream, and I'd say the plurality of your libraries had that, where they could see Earth as it was in real time. And as these plants, these experiments here on Earth were growing, we had their sisters, the seeds, up on the International Space Station. It was like a bug light. The kids would come in and they'd beeline right to this to see what happened the week before. Because of course they come in the library once a week and they drop their book off and they pick up a new book. And there's not a lot of time. And Sonia, we'll see a video at the end, we'll keep this real short. But she did an absolutely amazing engagement with her library. Sonia, can you come up? I want to thank you. And you'll see that, you'll see it in the video. It's just really astounding. And so thank you very much. She also had them just randomly say, "Kid, go ahead and create postcards," and kind of put them in front of her library desk. And you can kind of see that, I think that in the video as well. But here's something that's absolutely fascinating, and we didn't expect it all. Last week, Jeff Bezos, of course the Amazon guy, he's rich enough to sell a few stock and build a rocket company. He plans to land on the surface of the moon in 2024 with Blue Origin. It's called Blue Moon. And what he announced just last week was 10,000 postcards, if kids could fill it out and put a stamp on it and send it up to Blue Origin. They would send it in a rocket, the New Glenn rocket, into space. When it came back, you'd get the postcard back. So we just talked about it tonight. We're going to take all those postcards that are right around her library desk, and we're going to turn them around. Kids will put their names on it and return address. They're going to go into space, and they should come back and get mailed to them in maybe 2021. So Sonia, thank you so much. And now what I'd like to do is introduce Dana Torres, what she's done with her class. Again, with the ExoLab is absolutely phenomenal. We also have some guest scientists as well, and they're going to explain a little bit about what they were doing with the International Space Station. So Diana, and your...
Where are the librarians from? What school?
Oh my goodness, I think we have 50 primary schools.
okay.
Larson is
Larson.
Yeah, is the...
This is my 5th and 6th grade combo class from Julia Morgan. We've done ExoLab and balloon launches with Magnitude IO for 2 years now. So I'm going to let you guys go ahead and talk and share. You just really quickly tell what one of your favorite things, question, Lee,
And speak to the youth.
One of my favorite experiences with ExoLab was when we planted them and we watched them grow through the whole year, and we were able to do one ourselves, but it didn't work out, but we tried again and it worked. And yeah, that's it. Well, another thing we did was we wrote notes on the ExoLab website, and we did it the whole year, and the whole time we went through a lot of trial and error, but at the end it was just a really fun experience to do it.
One of my favorite things is when we got to clean the seeds, because our last one that we did failed, so we had to make a new one for our bio lab, and last year, I mean, and oh, the balloon launch. So we got to go to Krista McAuliffe, and the balloon, it went to like this place in like Lodi. It was really cool. And it landed into like the cherry places with farms and stuff. That was really cool.
And I know you have a large agenda tonight. We're just going to show a little synopsis, little video of what we've done over the last few seasons, and we're really looking forward to move forward with you, continuing to integrate not just middle school, but K through 12.
It's been exciting in our STEM program, helping our students understand the importance of science, technology, engineering, and math. And the atmospheric sciences program has been great with the high altitude balloons. In fact, what our students have been able to program with the CANSAT has really helped in the urban garden project, because students take the data and are also able to grow certain types of vegetables as a result of the effects of the atmosphere.
And I learned that helium is really cold, like compared to oxygen. I learned that the helium is lighter than air. So people could see they could be up there and eat those plants up there. Good question again! He set up these antennas, so these traced where the rocket was. Yeah, we learned skills from that, and it's a very important skill to have, especially in programming things like the CANSAT, and maybe like part of the rocket came out or something. We did work pretty much 50 hours a day on that. It was a nice experience being able to see everyone's rockets go in the air and like all the effort that we put building them. Yeah. 3, 2, 1, 0.
There's your lab being installed on the International Space Station.
But it's interesting to see what happens in those tiny little tubes, and in space, right here, you can see they're not running much, but they're still running, and we're trying to figure out what can we do in space, what can't we do in space. So I noticed for this one it had more of an effect because it grew way more than the Zuna, where's that one Zuna? This one grew a lot more. This one didn't grow, this one's least effective, and this one's still seed. Well, this one has all moldy MRAF. They seem about the same, but this one's a little bit less grew now. And we also want to figure out why another plant has grown more, and the one in our library has less weight than the one here, and one of them is really moldy, and some of them have grown more than the one here in our classroom. And there's another being that and grew way more. It's like a little baby, there's less one, it's still also growing. Maybe some astronauts, they might see our video and think, wow, I never knew this.
At the library at Larson.
Comments?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I can't thank Ted and Tony enough and Magnitude IO. I was fortunate enough to make the balloon launch at McNair High, and if you and Christine for your class are doing this, if you haven't seen one of these and what it does to one of our campuses, it's absolutely inspirational. There is an excitement in the air watching this take off. We are planting the seed in so many young minds, and this weather balloon stayed aloft for many, many hours, right? Came within miles of going to the Pacific, landed in Big Sur, and we can watch it on there. They have a space-age composite that holds all the data in there called styrofoam. Yeah, and that's what protects everything. And I feel very fortunate, and you did a smaller balloon that stayed aloft for several days, I believe, from Heritage. This is absolutely spectacular. Also, spoiler alert, Ted and Tony wanted to be known that it looks like in the very, very near future, one of our classes, either a junior high or a high school, will be able to put a satellite into space.
Oh, very cool.
And if you think about it, we are from an age that nations were fighting to do this. And now that a class from Lodi Unified will be able to do this is absolutely amazing. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this. Thank you for energizing our students and giving them this very unique opportunity. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Sure.
Diane and I used to teach together years and years ago. Boy, how things have changed, haven't they? I mean, I don't remember us putting any rockets or balloons or anything up. This is a fantastic opportunity for our kids, and I want to thank all of our teachers who are helping our kids go through this and learn from it. So thank you so much.
I just wanted to say, I've had an opportunity to talk to you gentlemen, and it's very impressive, and I love the way that you're including such a wide variety of schools, and, you know, I definitely thank the teachers for sparking them. You know, obviously with science, the sky is the limit. But there is no limit because we're going out to satellites. So thank you very much for kickstarting all of this, and thank you for all your participants. Science is awesome. When they see it and touch it, it's exciting. Thank you.
Okay, very cool. Okay, it's my honor now to proclaim Classified School Employee Week. Do we have somebody to accept this proclamation? Oh, then I'm going to read it from here.
Deb is very sick
Oh,
at home.
okay.
Yes.
Would you like to accept this?
Sure, come up to the
Come on up to the podium. Okay, the third full week of May has been designated Classified School Employee Week by the California State Legislature by the passage of SB 1552 in 1986 in recognition of the invaluable services classified school employees provide to California public schools. Whereas classified school employees are education support professionals who continually strive for excellence in areas relative to the education community, and whereas classified employees support and enhance the educational process by assisting students and teachers, transporting students, preparing nutritional meals, maintaining buildings and grounds, and performing technical, business, clerical, and secretarial functions. And whereas LUSD classified employees provide an organization with specialized skills and contribute to the education excellence in our schools and program day in and day out in order to support and prepare our students for the 21st century. And whereas classified employees provide vital services that enable the Lodi Unified School District to respond effectively to the needs of students and their families, teachers, administrators, and other support staff, and the needs of the greater community. Now, therefore, the Lodi Unified School District of Education hereby recognizes and wishes to honor the contribution of the classified professionals to quality education in the state of California and in the Lodi Unified School District, and proclaim this week of May 19th through 25th, 2019 as Classified School Employees Week. Oh, Mr. Palmquist, you somewhere around here? Mr. Palmquist, you have some tests, some engineering aptitude and mathematics, science teams.
Thank you, President Knackstead, members of the board, Dr. Washer. We are very excited to have some students from Lodi Middle School and Principal Iwamiya and their team here. These students participated in what's called the Tests of Engineering Aptitude, Math, and Science teams at Stanford University. So I'm going to invite the principal and the team to come on up. They can tell you a little bit about what they did, introduce themselves so that we can thank them for their outstanding job. Lodi Middle.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce our team here. This is Ashley Altus, Monica Garcia, Natalie Mora, Isabella Wen, Noah Ortiz, Charles Starr, and Jonah Wong. And then our teacher, Mr. Box. Steve Box. There were a couple other kids that couldn't make it tonight also. I just want to tell you, these kids have been great all this year. 5 years ago, I don't think Lodi Middle really had a STEM program beyond what was the curriculum inside the classroom for science. And then Mr. Box came to our school and really changed what the STEM program at Lodi Middle became. He started a robotics team, which is what one of the girls is here wearing the shirt. We competed this year and last year at the San Joaquin County robotics competition that they have every year, and it's a tournament kind of style, but they do it on a weekly or monthly basis. And this year they came in second. We were really proud. They were competing as high school. And then we kind of decided, okay, let's see if we can take it a step further. And Mr. Box found this competition at Stanford, and we really thought, oh, how are we going to do? But the kids really took the challenge on, and they had to write an essay. We had to turn that into Stanford, and then they had to go over there and compete in a multiple choice mathematics and science test style type of competition, and then they had to build something. And they were given a real life situation. It was saving a teddy bear out of a well, but they had about an hour to build some kind of mechanical device that they had only paper clips. What else did you guys have? Popsicle sticks. And be able to take this teddy bear out of a hole. But it was a really great experience, and we didn't know what was going to come of it. And when we went, it was just fun to be at Stanford. I think it was a great experience for the kids, and we really appreciated the parents, because it was a far drive. We had to get up early in the morning, and we've been relying on the same parents, I think, week in and week out, month after month, taking the kids out to Stockton and going to these competitions. So to our surprise, and really it was exciting when we got the news that we had qualified for nationals, and in Maryland over the summer. I think Mr. Box has really taken our program to a new level. Unfortunately, we didn't really plan on it, so the kids all have plans the 4th of July type of week that they're having the competition. We won't be going to nationals, but it is something that we definitely look forward to and will plan for in the future. So we thank you guys for allowing us to come up here and share this news with you.
Did you save the bear?
They were very close, but it's hard to save it with paper clips.
Congratulations.
You know, there's a new program called Valley Robotics that some of you guys might be interested in, so you might want to check into that. And by the way, parents, you really are the unsung heroes many, many times, and any of us have been in the classroom or in athletic fields know that without your support, a lot of stuff doesn't happen, so thank you also. Okay, Dr. Washer, you have a report for us.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I want to let you know that Lodi Unified received an award from University of the Pacific for participating, not only participating in the Beyond the Gates attendance program, but doubling our participation. So they honored Lodi Unified at a ceremony that they had at the university by giving Lodi recognition for the best participation in doubling our efforts for the attendance program. So thank you to our schools for doing that. They did a fantastic job. You mentioned Valley Robotics. I know that that's on the agenda later, but I just want to let you know that enrollment is very, very good. We've had a lot of interest, so we're looking forward to hearing more about that later on the agenda. Thank you.
All right. Okay, is that it? All right, comments from the public. At this point, we have a 20-minute time period that has been set aside for the public to address the board on items that are not listed on the agenda. Each public speaker shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. But you're welcome to distribute any materials to board and or staff. Due to the restrictions imposed by the California Brown Act regarding discussing topics that are not on the agenda, board members may not engage in dialogue about this issue. I have 6 cards, so it's going to take every bit of 20 minutes, or just right at 20 minutes. 20 minutes. So please be mindful of your time, and we'll have to time you. So 3 minutes. First person coming up is Steve Reed, CSBA.
I'll be brief. President Hackstead, board members, Superintendent Washer. My name is Steve Reed, and I am your new California School Boards Association Public Affairs and Community Engagement Representative.
Cool. Thank you.
So there are many acronyms in education, and CSBA is giving you another one. So I am your PACER.
Okay.
And my job is to be a resource and a liaison between the school district and the board members and CSBA. We provide information on legal issues you may be going through or legislation that will affect school boards. So CSBA's big push this year is for full and fair funding. California is currently 41st in the nation in per pupil funding. And CSBA is going to be holding a rally tomorrow in conjunction with the California Teachers Association to push for increased funding from our state legislature. And the goal is to have California in the top half of the states by 2020 and in the top 10 by 2025. So I know Board Member Neely is your CSBA delegate, and I believe that Board Member Freitas is also going to be attending the rally. So I hope to see you there tomorrow. I guess it's going to be, I hear it's going to be good weather, and hopefully we'll have a good turnout. I look forward to working with you now and into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, this person only goes by Nicole F. No last name. Talking about curriculum concerns. Yeah, could you state your name for the...
Nicole.
What's your last name?
I would like to not have my last name publicly announced if that's okay for privacy. So I went to the parent meeting regarding the information on the new laws, regarding the new curriculum subject matters, and I feel that a lot of them are inappropriate. My child is not in school yet, and I'm speaking also for unborn children, people that haven't registered their kids in the school system. This is taking my child's rights away, her innocence, and this is taking my child's privacy away. And this is introducing potentially new issues, too early to know, and for her to decline others and what they are doing, their intentions. Last night, a history teacher, sorry, this is hard for me to say. I got in a disagreement with one of the history teachers that was presenting this. And I read some of the curriculum that they had out on the tables and who they were glorifying in the curriculum. And one of them was Harvey Milk. And I didn't know who this person was until a couple of days ago. My parents never educated me on this, so I had to learn on my own who this person is as quickly as possible. So from what I found out, Harvey Milk should not be glorified. And I'm curious why the Board of Education has glorified him in the way they have. I understand that the state has set standards for what curriculum you pick from, and I understand that you are mandated by the state to talk about certain things, and I understand that, but I don't agree and I don't understand how they have slipped in history and social science this sexual agenda, and they're saying it's not a sexual agenda, but when our children come home and they're asking us questions about what does gay mean, what does transgender mean, what does bisexual, lesbian, and any other acronyms I haven't mentioned, that does bring up the sexual discussion in the home, whether it's on the playground or not, I don't care. But now, looking this guy up, I don't know if there's any children in here, but what I'm about to tell you is not appropriate. If there are, they should leave the room. I don't know if there are any. Because some of the words we were using last night, they disagreed with, that we shouldn't be using them, like sodomy, and I don't know. So anyways, this book source is from Randy Schultz, the mayor of Castro Street. And this is a biography from what I'm understanding. And the most notable cases was sodomizing a 16-year-old named Jack McKinley. Harvey was in his 30s.
3 minutes.
When he...
Okay, you need your last sentence, please.
When he started having sex with a 16-year-old.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, but we do have a large agenda, so we're going to hold you to 3 minutes. Okay, next up is Catherine Duffel, Bruin Voice.
Good evening, President Knackstead and Dr. Washer. I would like my students to speak as well, so I'll try to be brief. If you don't know me, my name is Kathy Duffel, and I teach AP English, Composition, and Language at Bear Creek High School, and I also teach pre-AP, and I'm also the newspaper advisor at Bear Creek High School. I advise the Bruin Voice, and we have brought you copies of the latest edition if you have not seen it. But you probably know me as the teacher who stood outside her door on April 11th and was handed a letter by my principal, Hillary Harrell. And in that letter, it was from you, Dr. Washer. You threatened not only disciplinary action against me, but also my dismissal. You threatened to fire me if I did not allow you to engage in prior review of a story that, in my mind, was a simple profile of a student who was a legal adult engaging in a legal line of work. I know that we are all about asking the big essential question at Lodi Unified School District, so I want to ask you this question. Why? Why did you engage in prior review? If there had been any attempt to engage in prior review, it should have come from my immediate supervisor, who is Hillary Harrell, the principal. Hillary Harrell never engaged in prior review, never made any attempt to engage in prior review. And so when I was accused of insubordination for refusing to submit to prior review to my principal, that was a false charge. It was flat out wrong. You simply made that up. So I have to ask myself why you attempted such overreach in this case. Why did you mandate prior review for an article that I think you probably realize now was entirely legal in its content, and it was professional in its journalistic style? And I think that the Record's willingness to publish that story on the same day that we distributed our paper to the students is illustrative of both of those things. I want to make sure that this board understands Education Code 48907C, which gives me, the journalism advisor, the power to supervise the production of the student staff, to maintain professional standards of English and journalism, and to maintain the provisions of this section. It does not give Dr. Washer that ability. It does not give Principal Harrell that ability. That responsibility lies with me. And so I hope we are all clear from this point on moving forward that the responsibility to enforce 48907 lies solely with me. And I hope that we do not have any attempt at prior review from this point forward. Okay, and I would like my students to speak too.
Quickly. Still on the clock here.
Are we still on 3
Yes.
minutes?
It's 3 minutes.
Okay, so 3 minutes for each person, right?
No.
No, it's 3 minutes.
3 minutes
Okay.
for this topic. just say,
It's 3 minutes.
You're not going to allow her to speak?
you can state your name and just give me a sentence. We have to keep moving.
My name is Gabriela Backus. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Bear Creek's paper, The Bruin Voice. It's nice to finally meet you guys face to face. Not a great start though. We'd like to forgive your gross negligence if you agree to make public how much you paid in attorney costs to Paul L. R. Gaunt of Kingsley Bogard, LLP, in a fruitless, drawn-out, completely unnecessary battle against us. I'm certain the taxpayers who elect you would love to know how much of your hard-earned money you threw away aimlessly. If you refuse, that's fine. I've already written out a Freedom of Information Act request, and as soon as you decline, I'll mail it out. Then by law, you'll be forced to make your careless spending public, and your denial will make you look all the worse. Not that anybody thinks you're in a great standing now. Thank you.
It's more the same, right? So,
No, I think they have something else.
Hi, my name is Devin Enong. I'm a feature editor for the Bruin Voice, and I just want to say that this experience has been crazy, to say the least. From being interviewed by news outlets to seeing my teacher being interrogated by a policeman, I never expected myself to be on this crazy of a roller coaster during my first year of journalism. Usually the process of making one edition of the Bruin Voice is very simple, but you have unnecessarily overcomplicated it due to your lack of trust in our publication, which is not only award-winning, but is also a public forum, which allows us to discuss current events of interest to students for sharing ideas and opinions on different subjects.
okay, thank you.
It's okay, come on.
I'll try to keep it short. My name is Amara Del Prado. I'm a sophomore and I'm the entertainment editor of the Bruin Voice. Throughout the whole process of journalism that I learned in the 1 year that I've been in it, Ms. Duffel has constantly supported us and assured us that our voices will never be silenced. That's our motto, the voice shall not be silenced. You claim that part of your job is to protect students, but does that not include their freedom of speech in this situation? We felt that the subject story was important to tell, yet our freedom of speech was still infringed upon, despite the fact that we are a public forum. I feel that not only the editors of the Bruin Voice have been wronged by our actions, but also the entirety of Bear Creek's diverse student population whose stories are waiting to be told. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Mr. Hurley. Avid.
Thank you, David Hurley, Ansel Adams Elementary. First off, I'd like to thank the board for allowing the students to be able to speak. Sometimes it's very difficult to hear things that we may not like to hear, but I think it's really important. It's the only way we can build trust within our district. My concern is no secret to the district's management, so I've discussed this with them on more than one occasion this year. At Ansel Adams Elementary School, we had 115 sixth grade students, and we had between 40 and 50 apply for the Avid Elementary Middle School program. It's an elective program at Murata last year. Only 4 of those students were allowed to attend because the class is limited to 30 students. This is true at Delta Sierra, Murata, Krista McAuliffe, and Millswood. Avid, if you take a look at our statistics from the last year, 92% of Avid seniors go on to post-secondary education. And that's out of 64% of those students are from high poverty schools. 71% of our students in our district qualify for free and reduced lunch. Yet, we have one 7th grade Avid elective class at our middle school sites. And I think Mr. Nava will agree with this because I know he's big in athletics. You cannot build a high school athletic program without a middle school program. And you certainly can't build an academic program with opportunities for our most vulnerable students without a middle school program supporting them. It breaks my heart because I do believe public education is the only way out of poverty for many of our students, in fact for most of them. And if we don't provide them the opportunity to be able to move from that on a program that we know works, then we are missing the boat. I don't understand the challenges and increasing the opportunities for the avid elective at the middle schools. But I do understand the consequences of our students not receiving opportunities to further the education. I've seen it many times. So what my suggestion is, I propose that we review our current practices for building a college-going culture and make the appropriate changes to support our most vulnerable students. Possible changes could be increased avid elective classes at the middle schools and the high schools, in addition to what I would really consider you take a very critical look at is avid school-wide. The reason students fail, from my experience at the high school and middle school, is a lack of organization. And when you have a lack of organization, and it leads to the absence of hope. And those two things are what cause students to fail and drop out of school. If we had an avid school-wide system, organization would be emphasized. I know that a couple weeks ago, that time?
3 minutes.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I just couldn't hear something.
Oh.
The first statistics you gave, would you repeat those? How many students at your school?
We have 115 sixth graders last year. Between 40 and 50 applied for the program.
How many got it?
4.
Why only 4?
We know that. Well, that's my question. You got it.
I just wanted to hear the statistics. Thanks, sir.
We can do this, but we have to be together on it.
Thanks. Okay. Comments from board members on whatever you want to talk about. Ms. Nava.
Okay, I'll start. All positive stuff. And about this time of the year, we have positive stuff because of graduation coming up, promotions, and all those kinds of things. I want to congratulate the scholars that are appearing in the Stockton Record Supplement of Pinnacle. That's published yearly about this time of the year, honoring high school students for their commitment to learning and their outstanding achievements. We had a plethora of students involved in the scholar program there, and you can access it on the internet at Pinnacle from the Stockton Record. I want to congratulate senior Bryant Newbert for a perfect score on the ACT 36.
Wow.
Okay, that's perfect. I guess the SAT now is 1200. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that much though. Tokay valedictorian Jasmine Gill for receiving the Gates Scholarship. Awesome scholarship, 4 years of undergraduate studies paid for at any school that she wishes to attend. Later on this summer, Ms. Gill will fly to Dallas and attend a convention with other winners of the Gates Scholarship. Great thing, she's from Tokay. Congratulations to the Lodi FFA students that won the state title for light horse judging. Light horse judging. The Lodi High team will go to the Nationals in Indianapolis the last week of October, which is a great, awesome honor. Congratulations to Carrie Anima, going to athletics, for being the athlete of the week selected by the Lodi Sentinel. She is a distance runner from Tokay High School. Check it, is it Lodi High School, I'm sorry. Tokay? Tokay, because that's what we did. Congrats to Samuel Wright for winning the section in pole vault. He went 15.6, which is a great distance. And then congratulations also to Emily DuBois for the section champion in the high jump. Can you imagine Samuel went on the pole vault 15.6 and Emily went 5.6 on the high jump. Interesting statistic there because, you know, he went with a pole 10 feet higher. Congratulations to Lisa Holstrom. This is actually a last year June a selection for her. She's a third grade teacher at Lakewood Elementary School, and she was selected by ABC Channel 10 as Teacher of the Month. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Neely.
Yeah, okay, real quick. Went to the CSBA assembly this weekend. Excuse me. Main topic on Saturday was main topic on Saturday, was for special ed and the rampaging cost on special ed and what we were going to do about it. A lot of good suggestions on that, including caps on litigation, direct payment for special ed so that there is no infringement on the cost, and also sharing the cost across districts, especially with charter schools, getting them to share in part of the cost. While I was there, also I found out some interesting things from colleagues on negotiations they had just finished. One had some people camping outside his door. He wasn't happy about that. A couple of others had settled agreements with their respective bargaining units, and one group, I think it was Manteca, I believe, went 4 years as a percentage of COLA and no negotiations in between time unless there was a dramatic change. And they defined what dramatic change was in the income or the increase in revenue or a drop in revenue. So they don't go to every year now. 2 of them did that. Lincoln did that also. So interesting concept. Attended the parents' meeting the other night, last night. That was quite a turnout. In all the years I've been associated with Lodi Unified, there were more parents at that meeting than I've seen at any other meeting. And it was incredible. It was all about the social studies curriculum, as you heard earlier. I've asked that be put on the agenda for June 18th, so that parents can come and we can answer about it rather than just, I also invited them to come tonight. They do want to talk about it, but we want to give the board a chance to talk to them about it. So that's why we're going to get it on the agenda. Their main concerns. One was that the ability to opt out of that type of training for their kids. And another one was, what would the repercussions be? I got to tell you, I was a little bit surprised. I read about Sally Ride there in the 2nd grade manual, and it said Sally Ride was the first female astronaut and the first lesbian astronaut. And I'm not sure that it needed to say that for a 2nd grader, but that's just my personal opinion. So there's a lot of things that can be done about that, and hopefully we'll be talking about that. One more thing, Needham is doing a dance academy, and they've got the entire class, entire school doing this, and they combine the PE and music together in one class. And I brought a real short little video, it's less than a minute, to show you on this. So if you can run that, we'll see how it goes here. Just watching that.
Was that dance or PE?
Those kids were having a ball. The smiles on their faces, and you had boys dancing with girls. And
You sure that wasn't a PE class?
It looked like it did. Yeah,
I'm just checking.
So it was a combination of both. Anyway, that was put on by a grant from Walmart that was obtained by one of our teachers. And my wife substituted there, took the kids to that class and was just blown away by it and said, you got to go see this. And so I did. They're going to be asking for that again. And I think the district ought to be participating in this and helping bring this kind of thing to other schools. So, fantastic program. Just wanted to share that with you. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr.
grades.
I'd like to thank my colleague, Mr. Nava, for all the accolades that he gave, but I'm disappointed he left out one of our teachers, and that is Jeff Simpenderfer.
I'm going to the banquet, sir.
Who was acknowledged as Lodi Unified's Teacher of the Year. Not only is Jeff an amazing teacher, but he's a continuation teacher at Liberty High and has inspired many individuals to continue with their education and get their diplomas. So thank you very much, Jeff, and congratulations on an award very much deserved.
Yeah, Mr. Heavily.
Thank you. At the last board meeting, I neglected to mention something at the comments from the board section, and that is about music in our schools. Every year, the music teachers put on, for the elementary kids, a music in the schools. They would play I used to call them ukulele, now I know it's ukulele, and they have the recorders, and they would sing the songs. One of them is kind of for the North Stockton area that's held at McNair. One is for the Lodi area and surrounding that is held at Tokay High. And I do go every year. My mother's first teaching assignment was music. And so we always had music, and it's just wonderful to see those kids smiling, singing, and music just transcends so many different things. So anyway, great job, music teachers and students. It was quite a joy. One of the things that came to my attention is that the amount of testing that is going in going on in our schools. This came before the board several years ago, and what we were trying to do at that time is, okay, do we really need all these days for classroom teachers to put on all this testing and so forth? And now there's one in particular that is one-on-one teacher and student. And while that's going on, what are the other kids doing? I mean, sure, you can keep them busy for a little while, but then by the second kid, and then the third, and the fourth, as you're going through this, my concern is that it's really cumbersome, and it does eat into instructional time. So at a future board meeting, sometime in the future, what I would like to see is what tests are we giving, what grades, why are we doing it, and how long does it take? Because of course, some of them, they can probably take on their Chromebooks, I'm guessing, but it's a real concern with the one that is one-to-one. And part of it is benchmarks, and it seems like that the testing kind of came back and almost amplified when we did our last curriculum adoption. And so I just want to get a better feel for that. So Dr. Washer, that information I think would be very useful for us to see if we could do something to not infringe upon instructional time and maybe kind of mush some of those together. I mean, we've got so much data that's, okay, well, how about if we share it and save some time? Another topic is the start of school and making sure that we are ready facilities-wise and supplies-wise and all those things. And this is kind of geared for Mr. Khan. I know we had that agenda item where we were going to hire extra help during the summer so that we could get through the classes and really kind of spruce them up and get them ready. How is that going?
I believe the budget number decided upon was $250,000. That equates to about 24 custodians and 12 landscapers.
Okay. Is there a plan, I guess, also for the types of things that they do? Is it deep cleaning? Is it just, I mean, what is it? I don't know.
Right now,
Mr. Haverly, Mr. President, just a word caution, this is not an agenda item.
Okay.
Would you like it to be at another time?
Absolutely, next meeting. Because we got to get this going because we've got to make sure our schools are ready for the kids. Okay, I'll pass on that one. The social studies curriculum, when we're at the public comments section, I know it's really cumbersome that we can't we can't engage in a conversation because it is a violation of the Brown Act. So I want to make sure that you understand that silence doesn't mean we don't care. There are some real concerns that I have about that also. And so I think, having that as a future discussion, I definitely agree with Mr. Neely. I would love to do that. And, part of that discussion will be the appropriateness and what we can do about it, because we're told a lot of things from the state. And that would be it. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
I'd say one more thing to it.
Okay.
Okay, just real quick. During the meeting, I want to give a compliment to Lisa, Scott McGregor, Charles Taylor, for the materials that they put out. They went through and tagged every place in those books where something was mentioned. So their unit did that, and they had all of that stuff out there for people to see. So I thought that was great that they weren't trying to, they're not trying to hide it. They're bringing it right out and saying, here, this is the controversy right here. So compliments to your staff on that. That was a fantastic job.
When is the next meeting for that, Dr. Washer?
The next parent meeting is tomorrow in the Julia Morgan?
Yes.
Julia Morgan.
Thank you.
No, I'm sorry, it's not tomorrow, it's Thursday.
Oh, yeah, Thursday.
Thursday.
Oh, yes, it's 23rd. Thursday.
We're Thursday.
We have a meeting.
We have a
We
meeting.
have a meeting.
Any other comments from the board?
Well, you got to go twice today, look twice.
It's better be important.
I would like to thank the Deshmesh Darbar Sikh Temple for their multicultural bazaar on Saturday, which our students from Serna performed. And if you did get a chance to go out there, it was a wonderful event that was very multicultural. They were showing off.
I didn't see those guys back there. Anyway, it mentioned that their women's ensemble, which is their advanced band, went to Forum Festival this past weekend at Diablo Valley College, where they earned a gold rating, signifying that they were among the top 10% of the bands in the nation. So, I mean, if it was state or something, but the whole nation. And they will be competing in the best of the best competition next year called the Judges Invitational. And he mentions this is a monumental achievement, obviously, for our music program and the community. There's one thing I've learned in all of my years as a product of quality music education, according to Mr. Fonzie, is that with enough work ethic, determination, and perseverance, we can accomplish anything we put our minds to. There's nowhere quite like a band room to teach this lesson and so much more. So thank the board and for a wonderful end of the school year. And I just want to pass that on. I thought it was pretty appropriate for our board to hear. And I'm surprised Mr. Nall missed this one.
I want to crash your thunder.
The Stockton Record announced that 2019 Spring High School's Prep Student Athletes of the Year, and I just want to mention that there were 30 Lodi Unified School District athletes on that list. Anyway, any other comments? Oh, well, I do have one more comment. I do agree with Mr. Heavily about this testing problem, and I'm glad you brought that up. It just seems very cumbersome to me. I don't know. I know we're mandated by all kinds of state regulations, but man, some of those people are just being bombarded by this stuff. So if there's some way we can smooth that out somehow, I think a lot of people would appreciate it, even especially the kids and the teachers. Okay, so at this time, if there's no objections, I'm going to ask our student rep to give her presentation because we're in graduation season, and I can see there's a lot of room to a lot of stuff to cover. So if you'd like to give your thing and then bail if you want to, or stick around.
Thank you, President Canasted, Superintendent Dr. Washer, members of the board. I'm Alicia Townsell, the ASU president of McNair High School, and I'd like to share our report. Our seniors just got back from our grad night trip to Disneyland. Everyone had a blast, and we are now just waiting for grad week, where some of us will be going to either Hawaii or the Bahamas.
Link Crew recently had their May Day, an event for upcoming Link Crew members to meet one another and receive the proper training for the very first day of school when they host freshman orientation. Just last week, JROTC held their first field day. The cadets displayed how much they've grown individually as well as a union. During the field day, there were events such as the Best Drill and Ceremony Squad, flag football, land navigation, and more. Our student government class created teacher appreciation posters for every staff member on campus, from teachers and counselors to janitors and security guards. We wanted to make sure all McNair staff members are recognized and felt inclusive in this week's in Teacher Appreciation Week, because although they aren't all teachers, they all make McNair McNair. There's lots of student leaders joining leadership classes for the upcoming school year. We've had an overwhelming amount of students apply for Link Crew, conflict mediation, and student government this year. Prom was a success. We've heard nothing but good feedback about our gala-themed prom, and the seniors were definitely pleased. We had our annual AVID Award Night 2 weeks ago. All the AVID students were able to be recognized. Seniors are presented with sashes and acknowledging their years of dedication to AVID. Our counselors, along with our AVID department, held McNair's very first college signing day. Students from all around campus wore their college gear, representing the colleges they will be attending next year. 4 of our students were recognized at Pinnacle Award Night, an event celebrating those who represent the top 1% in class rank. I want to congratulate seniors from McNair High School, Angela Estrada, Jay Min Kim, Brianna Magana, and Min Union for this amazing accomplishment. McNair's Block M Award Ceremony has been going on for years. It's an event our counseling department puts on recognizing students who maintain a GPA of 3.6 for 2 terms in a row. This year, 36 seniors have earned the Gold Award, meaning these seniors have had a GPA of 3.6 or above for all 4 years of high school. Our boys volleyball team was just 1 game short of going undefeated this year, still taking first place in league. This is a major accomplishment for us Eagles, being that this is our very first year McNair has had a boys volleyball team. Right now is the best time of the year because AP testing just ended. McNair's choir performed at Murata Middle School earlier today and will have their very last performance later on this week. McNair's graduation is coming up, and I'm so excited, and I'm looking forward to seeing each and every one of you on graduation day.
Thank you.
Ms. Tonsel,
Yes.
congratulations on being a student representative of McNair. Great job throughout the year. But I heard some things that you're a very modest person, and like a figure of 25,000. Could you tell the board a little bit about that?
So I applied for the Foot Locker Scholarship, and they choose 20 students nationwide to receive a $20,000 scholarship from Foot Locker. And I was one of those students chosen.
Wow.
And out of one of those 20 students chosen, they choose one of those students to get a $5,000 added to their check for
Bonus. A bonus.
Yeah, a bonus from one of the founders of Foot Locker, and I received that too.
Well, our gift to you is not going to be quite that nice, but you get to keep your nameplate.
Thank you. I'm gonna take it anyway, but thank you.
Great job, congratulations.
Thank you.
You also have a, yes.
You're also being still modest. How much did you receive total in scholarships?
Outside of what UCLA is giving me and financial aid, I'm getting $45,300 in scholarships.
Great job representing it. Every year we say that we have the best student reps. You've set the bar very, very high, and we've enjoyed having you as our student rep. Very, very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
She has a presentation.
You have a presentation, okay,
Yes.
cool.
Okay, so something I've really been gathering information about this year is dual enrollment programs, and I wanted to give a presentation on implementing them in OUSD. I visited Chavez last week, and they have the program already at their school. They offer dual enrollment courses during the school day, offering college course credit classes to high school students. So the benefits for implementing this in LUSD schools. Schools can offer more electives without using its FTE. Delta classes are free of cost as long as you have a minimum of 30 students. Schools can add more electives without the extra cost. It offers electives that aren't typically offered at high schools. So you can take sociology, criminal justice, child development, family studies, those type of classes in high school, not to mention the typical history classes and English classes that you're going to take in college anyways. Benefits for our students. This is a culture change for students. If you think about it and compare dual enrollment college course classes to AP classes, the students that take AP classes are kind of different or maybe even the same for the students that are going to take these college classes. Students taking AP classes, they're taking it for a rigorous, to challenge themselves. Students that are going to take dual enrollment classes is going to be, there's going to be more students because every student going to college, this is a benefit for them. Students going to a 4-year, a private, a 2-year, it's going to benefit them. It's similar to middle college, although you get your full college experience as well as college credits. Can essentially leave high school only needing 1 year of college credits to transfer to a 4-year university. Can potentially attain an AA degree in high school. Now that's if the student is really on top of their stuff and they take summer classes or classes online as well. And this moves students up in the college selection standings. When colleges look at students' applications, they look at dual enrollment classes and they look at AP classes. But not all colleges take AP credit, if you get what I'm saying, but every college is friendly with dual enrollment courses, especially the CSUs and the UCs. Dual enrollment versus AP. Dual enrollment classes require a C or better in the class. Classes offered are easily transferred to UCs, CSUs, and 2-year colleges, compared to AP classes where students are required to pass the AP exam to receive college credit. Imagine a student taking an AP class the whole year, and then at the end of the school year, they receive a 2 or possibly a 1 on the college, on the AP test. So that does not transfer to the college. But if they took the dual enrollment class, and as long as they got a C or better, they automatically get that college credit. Many students many colleges won't give credit for AP courses. It's more private university and Ivy League friendly for AP classes because it's kind of the same curriculum. Because it's a standardized test that everyone's going to take, so that's really different from dual enrollment as well. Particulars. Basically, in order to take these dual enrollment classes, students need to meet requirements. I know, for instance, for the math class, you need to have a 2.6 GPA or higher, and every student needs to complete paperwork. And also, college classes start a week after high school classes, so that first week of high school, students are going to be, oh, what can we do? They can fill out their paperwork in order to take a class and kind of get everything settled in. College course classes are 2 days a week, 90 minutes a day, so what are they going to do with that other time? They could potentially take 2 college course classes, you know what I'm saying? So 2 college course classes a week, and then they have an extra day off, so they can use that time to maybe possibly tutor a class. Like if they're taking a college course English class, they can use that extra day or the extra 3 days if they're only taking 1 college class to tutor lower English classes or to take a period off or to be a TA, anything. Students have the option to take 2 college courses in the time they complete 1 high school class. Yeah. What would it cost LUSD? It's free of cost to the high school if the class is filled with at least 30 students. Now, what if you don't get at least 30 students? What Chavez did, they started with contract classes, and that's where the school board, they paid $7,000 per class, plus the cost of books to give students this opportunity. And the high school would always have to pay for the books, no matter what, if it's contract or dual enrollment. But think about it, $7,000 per class, but about $1,000 per semester for Delta, $3,000 for CSUs, say 30 students, $90,000. Get a few more, maybe 10, that's almost $1 million you're saving in LUSD students if you implement this into the regular school day. Oh, and that completes my presentation. Thank you guys for listening.
Alicia, this is great idea, and it's something I think we should be doing. I have to say it's not a particularly brand-new idea. I taught articulated, except in the old days, it was called articulated classes through Delta College. I taught accounting. They got college credit, they got high school credit. It didn't cost anybody anything except paperwork.
Oh, really?
So this is, and then when the state and federal decided that those classes aren't worth very much anymore, they stopped teaching it. But yeah, it's a great idea, and it's certainly something that we should be looking into. Thank you for that report. Yes, sir.
Fantastic presentation. I loved it. You did a great job on that.
Thank you.
Also, I wanted to tell you guys, it's beginning of this year, Alicia needed a letter of recommendation, so she had just joined us. And I said, give me a resume or something that I can look at so I can write this thing. She gave me a resume, and I'm like, holy cow. It was incredible. She is involved in everything, helping other people, all kinds of volunteer work, sports, and has fantastic grades. And she can give a presentation. I tell you,
So wait, did you give a recommendation? Did you write a recommendation for her?
No, very good.
Oh, okay, I just checked.
You got one from her. I went back and said, please. Anyway, great job. You've had a great year. You're going to do the great at UCLA.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, Ms. Porter.
Have you tried to share with Mr. Palmquist? Because I think maybe we should move you into his position. How's that sound? Is Mr. Palmquist here?
I can start tomorrow.
There you go. A potential internship, maybe? I just saw some brilliance here, I'm sorry. Outstanding, you're very incredible young lady, incredible.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Now, you're more than welcome to stick around, but I don't recommend it.
No.
Okay, no, we can't go with you, no. Moving on to consent agenda A, the routine action items.
Can I pull A2, is that right?
A2.
Item A2?
Mr. Porter wants to pull A2.
Second.
No, that's okay. Any other?
I'll take A7 and A8, please.
A7, A8. Any other?
I will pull A17.
Okay.
Move to approve the Miranda.
Second.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Public needs, would like to pull any items?
A10, A11.
All right.
Yes, there's a question over here that Mr. Kinnock.
Yes.
I was thrown out of our program because it's not for so long since we know the place.
Sure.
And I need to repeat all of
Okay.
I was pulling A2.
A7 and 8.
A17.
10 and 11.
10.
See you next time.
Good luck.
We didn't say it was expensive.
Okay, so
Okay.
I have,
Thank you for your work with us.
just to confirm, I have
Have a good evening. Good luck to you.
7, 8, 10, 11, and 17.
Correct.
Yes, correct.
And I'll pull item A3.
And added to that list is A3.
And we have a motion and a second for the meeting.
Okay. We do have a motion and a second for the same. Okay, we don't have a student vote, so,
Are you okay? No, I need to know.
oh,
Moved and seconded.
George
George
motion.
and Rod Heblet.
Joe kind of beat.
That's all right.
Joe's quick.
Close to this guy right here.
Okay, no student vote because we don't have students here, so board vote please. Okay, motion passes 7-0. First item pulled is A2, warrant report. Question, who pulled that?
I did.
Okay.
Mr. Khan, I have a couple questions about the warrants on Part A. Is that correct? Because you have two sections there for me. Okay, so I'm going to question both sections. Okay? One, we have a $250 to Church of God. Could you explain it to me?
I cannot, I'd have to look into that.
Okay, I was curious about that one. And then Jerry Adams, how much do we pay Jerry Adams Management on an annual basis?
I believe $75,000. That's the ballpark, but it's close.
What is exactly Mr. Adams do? I know that he's involved in safety and so forth, and security and things like that.
He reviews all of our security procedures at every site. He inspects and recommends camera placement at the sites. He also runs annually a joint task force of all local first responders at one of our school sites. This year was Tokyo High School.
Now, is that being duplicated? Like, for example, if you're talking about security cameras, doesn't Alamo set those places up, or do we have somebody else that's doing the security cameras for us as a vendor?
Currently, it is Alamo that's doing it. We did have a
And we don't rely on them, we rely on Mr. Adams to do that?
No, Mr. Adams is not setting the cameras. He's recommending placement of them.
And then they have no involvement where they should be placed?
No, sir.
At all? So they aren't the expertise in that?
Alamo's the expert in mounting the cameras. I think the former chief of police is probably the better expert.
No, I understand all that. Now, does the city of Lodi or city of Stockton provide, through their police department, any advice for us as being one of the, I guess we're like a major city in some ways when we have kids all in session, on a free basis, or they work in partnership with us? So I'm wondering, are we doubling up by having him as a consultant when we can get this through the police department?
I think he's provided measurable value over the years, but City of Lodi and City of Stockton and County Sheriff do provide some direction and insight through their SRO contracts. Also, City of Lodi is also providing a program at the cost of about $10,000 a year, referred to as the GRIP program, the Gang Reduction Intervention Program.
But if we went to them and had them look at our protocols, they couldn't help us at all?
I'm sure they could.
So then, are we being redundant here?
I imagine that's a matter of perception or opinion. I personally think Mr. Adams is providing a great deal of value.
And you're basing that on what?
Well, he intercedes in a lot of the emergency situations that occur.
And our police department don't?
Well, Mr. Adams is one of our first calls.
Above the police department?
Well,
we call him before we call the police?
Okay.
I'm sorry, maybe I didn't understand.
There'll be 911 call, but if there, I can give you an example of the incidents we're all familiar with last year where the social media threats were made against area schools. That I think is one area of value that I respect a great deal in Mr. Adams' work.
And the police department doesn't help us in that? Because I think nationwide, aren't school districts working more in collaboration with the local police departments and the community effort to deal with all the issues that are occurring
I think that's
nationwide? So then I'm asking, why are we going to an outside consultant when we have people that are actually doing this every day?
Well,
Mr. Porter, members of the board, if I can add, the service that Mr. Adams provides goes way above and beyond what could be expected from the local law enforcement. They work very cooperatively with us. We greatly value the partnerships we have with the city and the county. However, the day-to-day needs that arise are beyond what they can provide with the resources that they have. Jerry Adams walks each school site to determine needs of safety, not only the camera placement, but other things as well, fencing, other points, single points of entry, other things that come up at the school site. The law enforcement agencies just don't have the resources to give us that kind of service. So what he does is way above and beyond what can be expected from local law enforcement.
So let me follow that back up, and we have a liability, and what's the role of Keenan in this? Isn't Keenan our liability insurance?
They are, but
So
they're not
wouldn't-
our safety consultants.
But they do cover us in case of accidents, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And wouldn't it occur if we had some type of safety issue, that they don't have consultants?
Well, if we differentiate safety between.
But Keenan wouldn't be involved in that?
Well, Keenan would be involved in safety as defined by hazardous areas, cracked concrete, slippery areas.
But they don't, they're not worried about safety overall in terms of violent acts?
Well, I'm sure they absolutely are, but do they?
Wouldn't that fall under our liability, I think?
It absolutely would.
And how much do we pay Keenan a year? It says 10,000 in this warrant.
No, they earn quite a bit more than that.
So we're paying somebody $75,000, we have Keenan as well, and plus we have the local police department.
But Keenan is not a security consultant, whereas Mr. Adams is.
Okay, I'm a little, I just think we're being redundant there. I want to move on. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was your AT&T Mobile and AT&T. I believe we have $44,000 for AT&T General for this warrant. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
And how much is that annually?
If it's per month, it's $500,000.
So we're spending $500,000 on AT&T.
Could be, yes, sir.
And what is that, what do we get for that?
Cell phones.
So we get cell phones, but then you have mobile at $11,000.
Well, if it's AT&T, then it's the internet connections coming into our school site.
So we're using AT&T for our internet connections?
Yes, sir, and Comcast at some sites.
Yeah, okay. So we don't have our own wire servers, we don't have our own servers, or we?
We have our own servers, but we still need, the servers need some broadband pipe to throw the information out onto the broad internet.
Okay, so then how many phones do we have out?
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. Cell phones?
Yeah.
I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I can get it for you.
Yeah, I think that, I'd like to know it, because it's a cost issue, I think. And then how much is that being used for personal use?
I have no idea, Mr. Forrest.
We're looking at $500,000.
Well, if the AT&T charge that you refer to is for internet.
For $500,000? And then the mobile's what?
You stated 11,000.
I got 11,000 off.
I don't have all the numbers right in front of me.
Okay, so then we're in what, 750? To AT&T total for mobile and for internet?
It sounds a little high. If the average monthly is 44,000.
Well, you said $500,000 and then 11,000 on top of that, so what am I looking at, 650 then, 700,000? 700,000, and we don't know how many phones we have out.
We do, I just don't have that number right here.
And who qualifies?
Administrators.
And I asked you this before, I think 4 sessions ago, define an administrator.
Principals and assistant principals, directors, cabinet members, superintendent.
Okay, so I have some issues in regard to our cost on that. Going to the next item on warrant 2, we have, I believe, I gotta go back on this. You broke it down for me. I asked you this on conferences.
Yes, sir.
And you said we spend $8 million a year on that total? Is that correct?
I don't recall, but that sounds like about a good portion of a 5,000.
So if we spend $8 million, I think I looked at the total down at the bottom, and I'm looking at some of these have been spent, like in a Pasatiempo. I saw that we went to Ron Clark, Hyde House, Gaylord Resort, Fairmont, Clifton, and all that stuff. I asked about a rack rate, and then you said that couldn't be possible for us to establish. Let me finish. My point in this is, if we're sending administrators and teachers on conferences, good. Okay, what are we getting?
I'll let the participants in those conferences determine that. If I may state, we can establish a rack rate. That's a possibility, but for the most part, the government rate, either federal or state government rate, whatever these organizations will provide us with, generally is better than the rack rate.
Okay, so what are we getting now when we go to a conference? Do we get back some type of PD? Do we get back some type of certificate saying they did this? What do we get from the people that go to these conferences And I think you said 30,000 for this warrant. Is that correct?
Almost 31.
Yeah, so, and then what is our overall for conferences? I think I read somewhere, I might have misread it.
I don't have the number in front of me.
Well, I'm wondering, what are we getting for all this money that we spent?
Mr. Porter, the purpose, as you know, of conferences is improved practice, so we're getting improved practice at every level. An example, two examples that come to the top of my mind would be AVID. Many schools send their teachers to the summer AVID conference. They come back and they implement AVID either by grade level, or some of them now are doing it school-wide. Another example is the Ron Clark Academy that you mentioned, Larson being the leader of that, sending almost all of their teachers to that training so that they could come back and implement a very effective and high-energy program. We now have other schools who are interested in that and who are also going, so they are going to not only learn about it, but to bring it back and implement the strategies at their school site. So what the purpose of it, of course, is improved practice that leads to improved student achievement.
Do we have a set structure for when somebody goes to a conference, we get back a hard product? Now, when you said AVID, I'm standing up and applauding, because I think it's one of the most effective programs. And we heard Mr. Hurley earlier talk about AVID, and I wrote it down as one of my 10 things to solve our D's and F problems, that we need to expand AVID. So I'm all in on that. I'm asking, do we have something set structurally? When they go to a conference, they can come back and present that and show that conference was effective, or maybe not, and we won't be going into again. I don't see anything tangible. You mentioned a couple that are good. I'm saying overall, what do we have in place for accountability?
Mr. Porter, members of the board, we do not have a set protocol district-wide. The schools do establish that themselves. In many cases, they have time for teachers to present what they learned or to share what they learned, but we do not have a district-wide mandated set of protocols or forms that they fill out or an expectation that they deliver.
Do you think that would be something we can do?
Absolutely.
Mr. Kahn, how do you feel?
I believe you can measure anything. That's what I do for a living.
Can we do the same thing with our Keenan and Mr. Adams and check into that? Can we do the same thing with ATT and wireless and mobile? Since we're spending $600,000 on cellular and internet, I'm sure that a lot of people would like to get in on that.
I can recall, especially with the internet, Ms. Holbert in the technology department has put some pretty interesting graphic reports up in terms of usage on all those items. That's actually been on the board agenda prior. So I think that's already done. As far as the cell phones, no, we're not monitoring that at all, but trying to figure out some way to create a metric.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time, Dr. Walker.
I can hear where you're going, Mr. Porter, but I usually have the opinion that our teachers that go to conferences, our admin that go to conferences, people who go to conferences, I treat them and expect them to be professional and to actually go. Some people slip through the cracks, maybe. But for the most part, I think that when people go to conferences and spend district money, they're going and they're getting something out of it professionally. It's an expectation that might be not founded with fact, but I think that's true.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
Yeah, I think if we're using taxpayer money and we work for the taxpayers, I think they would like to see something more accountable than that. I know if you go to any businesses and so forth, they're not going to allow you to just take a trip. So I'd like to see something tangible come back. At the same time, if they're doing wireless service or they're doing liability or they're doing safety, they would shop that out on an annual basis. And for us to just keep rolling in the same mud doesn't make sense to me. So I'm sorry, I don't agree with you. I do think teachers, of course, optimistically are doing the right thing, but I'd like to see some type of feedback on how the money was being spent.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Dr. Washer, Mr. Adams comes with a unique set of qualifications, doesn't he, for the district?
Yes, Mr. Freitas, he does. His expertise in safety has been invaluable, as Mr. Kahn shared. what he gives us and puts in is worth far more than what we pay him.
Well, in addition to being the former local chief of police, he has relationships with the National Chief of Police organization, as well as Homeland Security. I believe he was on their directors. And he's also a Lodi alum, I believe also. Is that correct?
Yes, he is.
I did not know that.
And
I can guarantee he's on my team.
he provides a service as a liaison between the district and law enforcement, obviously able to speak cop and fire to these agencies in a very efficient manner when these messages need to be communicated.
Correct.
You talked about something that he does walk every single one of our schools.
He does the safety checks, which leads us to determine what kinds of safety measures we need at the school sites, whether it be fencing, single point of entry, points of vision, camera placements, all of those things.
And my understanding is he's doing this at a substantial discount for what others in the industry charge.
We believe it's very fair.
So I for one, think that we're very fortunate to have Mr. Adams doing what he does. And I do appreciate my colleagues looking carefully into our money, but I know what my experience is with Mr. Adams, the work that he does, the relationships that he builds with us in the community, law enforcement agents and government agencies. I stand behind him, and I think that's money very well spent. And with that, I would move to approve the item A2.
I'll second that.
Is there public comment on it too?
Yeah.
Is there?
I'm not done yet either.
Okay, go ahead.
Just real quick, but I'll second your motion. Mr. Collins, what's the name of that tax on cell phones that goes to pay for, the state of California charges on cell phones, it comes back to us?
E-rate?
E-rate, yeah. How much of that, I mean, we get, a lot of that goes to pay for our cell phones. I remember I brought this up one time, and I was amazed at how much of the E-rate goes into that.
Well, E-rate's predicated on your free and reduced, or unduplicated count, free and reduced, excuse me. So presently it pays, E-rate pays about 70% of the AT&T internet connection that Mr. Porter referred to.
Okay, all right. And Ms. Porter, I really do appreciate your concern on this, no doubt about that. I think, though, that we as a board need to discuss, if we're going to task, we talked about this before, this has been years ago, that it would take 4 of us to agree if we're going to come up with that big of a task for, to give to the administration. And I think that's only fair because that's a pretty big assignment you give them. Not saying it's not worth it, I'm not saying that, but I think that we need to discuss that as a board. Maybe a future agenda item on that. Maybe June 18th, because I won't be here on the 4th. I can be part of that. And that's all I got.
I would say that we're all good to look into. It has been several years that we delved into it to that depth. We did make some changes at that time, so maybe it's time for a relook. I'll support that.
Michelle, you're worrying me.
I had her walking up while you're talking because
You look like
it's
Mary
taking a while to
Poppins.
get there.
We just moved the podium
I
over
wish I
there.
was moving like Mary Poppins.
Practically perfect in every way.
With regards to the second item, the warrant detail with regards to the conferences, we would ask, if some of these conferences are so outstanding, and, AVID being one of them, we know that we brought back some AVID training and follow-up throughout the year with teachers. We just had Fred Jones sessions being done throughout the district over the past year, and yet we're sending some people to Fred Jones away. There's got to be a better way to use our funds and be more efficient with them. If there's a training that's out there, can we bring that trainer in so that more people could have access to it? Our Live Strong, Teach Strong is a teacher-driven PD conference for our teachers. But if there is something that is out there that lots of schools want to participate in, what's the cost benefit analysis on bringing some of those presenters in instead of sending for thousands of dollars people to some of these conferences? I would also like to ask you with regards to parenting partners. We have over $5,000 for administrators to go down to a leadership conference on parenting partners. I'm all for it, my school did it, but the cost analysis for how many parents are we really reaching for that, is that the best way to spend our buck? When we are looking at teachers who can't get basic supplies in their classroom. So I think we need to look, as Mr. Porter said, at everything with a very careful eye. And, you know, conferences are good, and establishing PD in our district, teacher-driven is good. But if there's something out there that we want to bring, principals have principal meetings, let's talk about it and let's see what we can do for the best way to spend our dollars efficiently. Thank you.
Okay, we're kind of getting off track here because all we're asking them for item A is, do we want to pay the money up for as it is right now? And you guys are starting to talk about all kinds of things. So unless you want it, do you want to pay, are you for paying the money? Pay the warrant?
I wanted to specifically talk about his comment about the conferences.
So we're back off track again, okay?
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
No, we're not. When an item is open,
Yeah,
it's open.
I know, it's just, we have
It's okay.
miles to go.
Okay, so I wanted, you mentioned the cost of conferences, and my colleague Christy Ardano and I have been GLAD certified.
Yeah.
So we were approached by the people who certified us. We actually recertified last year to become teacher trainers.
Perfect.
Okay, so the cost for that was $2,800, and we approached the district and they said no. But here's the kicker on that. If they trained us to be GLAD trainers, then we could come back and train anybody in our district to be GLAD certified for free. And additionally, we could charge $1,200 to anybody outside of our district, and we keep all but $200 of that. So actually, we could train for free and we could make money, and Christy and I can make their $2,800 back like that. So if we could do that, but we need to, I mean, we would love to do that. There's a training coming up in June, but I don't have $2,800 in my pocket to do that. And I would love to do that. I love to do PD. Christy and I do it all the time. And so I think I've sent emails to board members, so I'd love to talk to you about that. But we were shut down a couple times, and so contact us. I'm Lori Salez at Ansel Adams.
Yeah, that's the disconnect I'm talking about, that you go, you find these wonderful things, you can come back, we could host, we could make, you can generate income, and you could share it with the rest of the teachers here instead of sending them. So that's kind of the thing I'm approaching it. I'm not saying these aren't good, all good conferences. I would just like to see more accountability, and with that productivity.
And you're welcome to come into our classroom and witness it, because we actually use these techniques in our classroom. Right now I have several things up, so you can come tomorrow because it's,
I would like to do that.
It's
Right now I would
ready
like
for you.
Frankenstein, but it's okay.
Thank you.
While we're changing speakers, Dr. Washer, you said this will be on a future agenda?
I'm sorry, I said what? Conferences on a future agenda?
Well.
Oh, what Mr. Porter had asked for. Yes, I did say that, Mr.
Yes,
Hurley.
you did.
I did.
So I just want to make sure that is coming up, and if that's the case, I'll hold my comments till then.
Okay, yes, and he did ask for some protocol type structure.
I have one suggestion. We do have study sessions, don't we? We do have study sessions?
Yes, we do.
My God, the study session would be perfect to hash these out, get some recommendations, get some type of advice, like the teacher that came in here and gave us some input on her putting the clinics and so forth, that type of thing. I think that's more relaxed, get all the input from them, instead of here just speaking in the same subject and then nothing is solved or resolved. Thank you.
That's a great idea.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ann Suela Garcia. I teach kindergarten at Joseon, Morgan, and I feel like Mr. Hadley is reading my Facebook posts, and I thank you, Mr. Hadley, because I give one-on-one assessments.
I don't do Facebook.
But I want to talk about conferences, because I'm all for people going to great conferences, but there's a bucket of money, and for some reason, at my school, we don't have a bucket of money, and I don't know how we get in the bucket. And so if they want to go to Ron Clark Academy, awesome, because I think it does great things. But we said, where's our bucket of money? Oh, you're not in PBIS anymore. But I know that it costs a lot of money to go places, and yet our bucket is empty. And so equity of equipment, materials, conferences, it's not equitable. We are not a Title I school, and we are not a rich neighborhood. We are the average, everyday school, working our butts off every single day, and our bucket is empty. And it's super frustrating to see, oh, look, they had a bus come and they did this cool team builder. I saw it on Twitter. Great. How much did that cost and what bucket of money did it come out of? Because our bucket is empty. Joseon Morgan School, kindergarten, A2. Come on by. We've got 7 days. It's an adventure. You're invited.
When we're putting together that study session, I think, like Ms. Suela Garcia pointed out, we should point out where the buckets of money are and how these are budgeted for.
Okay, we do have a first and second on this first item, A2, and we have no students, so I'm calling for the board vote. Okay, and this passed 7-0. A3 was also pulled by Mr. Freitas.
I just had a question about this, if we can answer it. I hadn't seen this interfund transfer before, or maybe I have. This is something we do annually, and what would be the instances where we would do something like this?
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. This is a formality as it exists. Obviously a fund, a school district fund cannot go negative or we're out of money. So it's always a possibility at this time of year as we get into the close of a school, especially sometimes in restricted accounts where there is no money, or maybe even sometimes in some districts a food service fund will go negative. There will be an interfund loan that will be paid back. At this point, we don't have any identified need for an interfund transfer, and we don't anticipate one. It's there just in case.
And that's what I understood it to be, and thank you for explaining to me, and with that, I would move to approve.
Okay, we got first and second. Calling for the board vote. Freitas and Neely. Motion passes 7-0. Item A7 was pulled by who? Mr. Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Knack. I'm actually going to talk about A7 and A8 at the same time. I'll make this quick because we got some Serna parents out there that are waiting for that report to come up. I want to move to it. I just wanted to point out that these are for fire alarms for 3 schools. A7 for Bear Creek, A8 is for Wagner Holt and Park Lane. These fire alarms are going to cost us $1.8 million. It's ridiculous. But I've talked to Mr. Khan, and we went through all of this, and by God, that's the best we can do on this. He's rejected one that's even more. That was without, the architects told him it was going to be, I think, Bear Creek around $2 million. We talked about all this cost, so he answered all my questions on that, but I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that our 3 schools were spending $2.8 million, and $2.8 million, and we have to do this because of state fire marshal regulations. Is that correct?
Everybody blames the fire department.
Yeah, those.
I repeat my question, Mr. Everly.
Mr. Khan?
Here's the answer all
Thank you, Mr. President. This is true. Fire alarms, I think we discussed this in open session before. with the Bear Creek fire alarm, that's $1,689,000. The board had allocated in February 2017 $1,045,000 for Bear Creek, so $645,000 over. At one point, our consultants and designers felt $2 million could rule the day on this particular project. But I'd also like to note that with staff, particularly Miss Nanette at Lodi Middle, who uses a lot of the cell phone or the telephones and the PAs, last year we began an intensive study of voice over IP systems that also function as public address systems and intercom systems. So just as a reference point, Bear Creek's allotment in February 2017 for Measure U's PA and intercom was $1,471,000. The complete jive retrofit for that site was $193,000. Park Lane is not a Measure U recipient for a fire alarm, it's a Measure L product, but under Measure U, Park Lane was allotted $350,000 for the PA and the intercom. Total cost $69,400. So while the fire alarms are causing me angina, we are having offsets and some success in some of the other measure projects.
Mr. Khan, when they built these schools, weren't they up to code at the time?
Absolutely.
So then now why the need for additional fire alarms?
They're old. So there's a real fear amongst our M&O staff that Bear Creek can fail.
So Bear Creek, how old is Bear Creek School? 10 years?
Oh, no, so 1991.
1991?
Oh, my God.
And we have no recourse?
We have to have a fire alarm, or...
I understand that. We have them in place when they were built, and now they're not working, is that correct?
They work, but with this old system, we are interchanging a single panel for a lot of these. When we replace a fire alarm, we'll pull the panel out of that site where the item was replaced, and then that stays in storage until something fails.
I got you.
And then we run it over.
Okay.
Yeah, first.
Move to approve 7 and 8.
Second.
All right.
Well, if we're, I have a question on 8. Mr. Khan, the bid on that was $10,000, but we're setting aside $1 million for $92,000 of district-controlled construction allowance on item 8.
The bid wasn't 10,000 on, I forget the breakdown, but I believe Wagner was 590,000, and Park Lane was the remainder of $1,003,620.
Yeah, I'm just reading the first paragraph that's up here on A8. Towards the middle, it says, lowest bidder was Bachman Woody, in the amount of $9,620. Approval of the resolution is Bachman Woody. Total budget is $1,003,000 with $92,000 in district control allowances.
So that must be a typo.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing. I believe it's a typo. Because in one section it has that number, and the other section has the correct number.
Oh, so the summary is incorrect.
Yeah.
Except at the bottom, the actual dollar amount of $1,003,620 is correct.
So the winning bid was $92,000?
The winning bid was $1,003,620 for the two sites, and $92,000 of that is a construction allowance. We control it. If it doesn't get used, it reverts back to the district.
I think.
It does need a corrected amount.
Okay, that motion passes 7-0. Okay, A8 then, Mr. Freitas, question is?
Well, now I'm looking at the resolution itself. And
and it says lowest bidder in the amount of $911,000. $911,620.
Plus the 92,000 in district-controlled allowance.
Looks like they left out the 1-1 there, is all they did, typo. On the, not on the resolution, but on the summary.
Okay.
I'm gonna vote yes on the correction.
But we're voting on the resolution, and the resolution's already good.
Okay.
The resolution's right, the summary's wrong.
All right.
Okay, so we do have a first and second, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, call for a board vote then. Okay, that motion passes 7-0. A10 was pulled by
Michelle.
Michelle. Oh,
810 and 811.
Just on the
she's
if
fine.
it's okay.
We'll hear.
I think, I got
Use
the
your
teacher
teacher
voice.
voice.
Everyone can hear me.
Just set the table.
On the project, this resolution for the Houston Serna transition expansion, this is just regarding the effects, such as the Native American. This is the open hearing. This is
On May 7th.
on May 7th. This was in regards to portables. They're talking about putting there, this is just the effects of that. Is that correct?
Yes, but not just the portables, Michelle, we
Right,
also
but
do in the parking lots.
The
and
parking lot, the tetherball,
Right.
that being taken off and put on.
So the board is being asked to approve a negative declaration stating that either there is little impact to the various things, biology, water, air, Native American tribes, wildlife,
Right.
or that the impact that does occur can be mitigated with certain items. For instance, on the executive summary, I identified the greenhouse gas impact whenever construction occurs. The report indicates that with busing, that will mitigate greenhouse gases.
Thank you for that clarification.
Move to approve.
got it first? I'll second it. Okay, we have a motion to approve item A10. And there's no student vote, so it's board, there we go. And that passes 7-0. Item A11. Who pulled A11? Oh, Michelle, what's up?
With regards to this charter application, as you look through the charter, these are some of the things that we've talked about in study sessions, some of the things that we've talked about as direction in bringing towards us. I know this is just their application
Right.
and your receipt of that application. However, I just wanted to reiterate, what we're doing with Valley Robotics and how we are trying to reach our own students in different ways. We are looking at doing these things, and I
Correct.
would look at legislation that is pending regarding charters. Thank you.
Yeah, we just have to, by state law, right, we have to receive the charter, that's all we're saying.
This is just that you're acknowledging receipt,
Yeah.
there will be a public
Yeah,
hearing.
yeah, it's not approving it or
Thank you.
even thinking about it.
I move we approve A11.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. No student vote, so board vote, please. I hit it once. Okay, motion passes 7-0. And we're down to the last one, right?
A17.
A17.
Mr. Hebley?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is contracts, and I'm concerned about contract number 1, which is about initial school site evaluation for a new proposed school site. What I would like to do is see if there's interest on the board to table this until we have an opportunity as a board to look at what our future facilities in total holds. You know, what is our plan? Where are we going? What is some potential? That is actually has been requested as an agenda item from a previous meeting. It just has not been scheduled yet. So this would fall into that. I don't see a reason to spend $98,000 on something that may or may not be what we're looking for. So anyway, that I would move to approve contract 2, but I would like to table number 1. That would be my motion.
Second.
I don't understand what we're paying item 1 for, so maybe you could explain that, Mr. Collins.
Several years, actually over a decade now, I believe it was 2006, the board engaged a study to identify future school sites. The site referenced on item A17, Petrologics, is Site I, as in India. That is the Westlake subdivision in Northwest Stockton. What the Geotech Petrologics will do primarily is test the soil for hazmat type material, but perhaps the most important item they will do is what's called a Geotech Summary to determine the compaction level of the site, to see whether or not it's a viable site to place a very heavy building. The board may recall that this item was introduced on April 2nd as a report. It is an area of development, I believe. AG Spanos has plans for 2,100 home sites. Presently, that's almost 1,500 market homes, with the balance 600 and some being what they will start calling me an active adult pretty soon. But we're told by Spanos that mix can actually change, so it can move on to 100% market homes or somewhat less. We do know that one subdivision has been contracted. That's I think they call it subdivision D. That's 125 market homes, so they are presently building there now. If we are to move forward in negotiations with Spanos, we must present this type of due diligence to CDE prior to the board being able to actually purchase the property.
And I can tell you that they are building like wildfire out there right now. And it's real close to levees. I mean, this report has to be done. So, therefore, I think we should pass this.
I'm not doubting that the report has to be done. I just wanted to make sure that we look at things not piecemeal, but our whole development plan for us. You're talking about the Future Facilities Task Force, which I was actually a member of. So I kind of get where all those alphabet lots are. It's just, I'm looking at it as an entirety, not just as a singular piece of property. There is no doubt that all of that testing has to be done, but I just want to make sure that it's a part of the whole. So that's my request. And there is a motion and a second.
Okay, could you repeat the motion and second?
The motion is to approve item A17, contract list number 2, but table number 1. Moved by Mr. Everly, seconded by Mr. Porter.
Okay, thank you. Call for the board vote then.
Question.
Yeah.
One more question for Mr. Khan. This number 1, the money's not going to them right away, is it? I mean,
Well,
this engineering,
they'll need to do the work if we are to move forward with this, but if the question is, can we stall this to next board meeting and combine it with, with the future?
The developing.
Yeah. So in essence, the report that I would plan to bring back would probably just be
the same.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah, we need to spend the money sooner. All we're doing is saying, we're gonna spend the money,
as soon as it's needed to be spent. Okay, so the motion is, yes, something else? Okay, so the motion is to approve one, but not approve the other one at this point, yes?
Approve contract 2, but not contract 1, that should be tabled and come back to us.
A no vote would be, we would re-vote again.
Yes.
Okay?
Well, what if you want to approve 2 and not 1?
Then that'll come up
You
next.
know, it should be one motion for one thing, and not for both of them. That's kind of, I mean, what do you say, if you do this, you don't want to do that. I mean, if Mr. Everly wants to make a motion to pass 2, I mean, and then make another motion to table 1, then that's.
You can separate them out if that's
I would like them
easier.
separated. I can't vote as a block on it, because I might want to vote yes on 1. If I vote yes on this one, then that means it will be tabled.
That's correct.
Introduce a motion
Yeah.
to change.
Can we revise your motion?
Vote on the motion. Then you vote on the agenda.
And you
Correct.
vote. If my motion fails, then we come back and vote on both of them at the same time.
You would need a different motion for something else.
Correct.
Okay,
A yes means that you vote, you're saying yes to number 2, and you're saying table number 1.
right.
That's not right. I don't agree with that. You know, I don't want to table number 1. If I voted, I want number 2, yes. If I would vote yes on that, that means I'm voting for table number 1.
The motion is to change the agenda item, okay? So you vote on that, and then you vote on the agenda item. You're gonna vote on 2 items anyway. Give you 2 votes, right? If you don't like the motion, you vote against it.
Right.
So if my motion
But I
fails,
like 2.
Yeah.
if my motion fails, there'll be another motion. we'll vote. Yeah. So-
Roll them.
Roll of this.
Let's do it.
We're gonna do a voice vote?
No, do we need a vote? Oh, yeah, we will. Okay, okay, we do need a vote, so we'll go down the aisle. Ms. Neely?
Aye.
Aye.
No. No?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that,
Amendment's in effect.
so it did pass. Was it 5-2?
Yes.
Okay. So we're done with this item then?
No, we have to vote on item 17 now. The amended version of it.
Okay.
The amendment passed, you amended the
I don't think
agenda
that's-
item. Now you gotta vote on the agenda item.
Restate it for me, please. I guess.
Agenda, now that you're voting on the item as changed, as you will vote, the motion is no on 1 and yes on 2.
That's been approved, so now we're voting on agenda item 17, which is just item 2.
Correct. Right.
That's an electronic vote.
Right. All right. This one, vote yes.
That's number 2.
Okay. We didn't need a board vote.
Approve. Second.
I thought we already got that. Okay. We got first and second, now we need to vote. Okay, that passes 7-0. And then we'll take a look at the one that we tabled next time, I guess, or sometime in the future. Okay, I think we can get consent agenda B done fairly quickly.
Move to approve.
Second.
Wait,
Oh, okay.
I know. So I'm sure we're gonna have,
There was a motion and a second, I believe, on.
okay,
Do you want to rescind your motion in a second here?
I rescind my second.
okay, you rescinded it, because, was there anything that we needed to,
I wanted to pull one, I can't remember the number on it.
it was
Was the first one B1?
1819-1051.
That is correct. So I wanted to move for
B1.
suspension.
you wanted B, that's B1?
Suspension of the schools.
Yeah, we're pulling B1.
Pull it first.
And- Okay,
I still vote on move to approve the remaining.
okay, so it's been first and seconded that we approve consent agenda B2 through 6. B2 through 6. Okay, board vote.
Are you okay then?
I'm working on it.
Okay. We're pulling the first one.
Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the screen isn't caught up with the.
Yeah, it is.
No, this screen.
Oh. Okay, so those items were passed 7-0. Mr. Porter, you pulled item B1.
Yeah, I move to change the expulsion to a suspended expulsion.
Second.
Okay. So item B1 has been changed to suspended expulsion. A yes vote would do that. A no vote would leave the item as an expulsion. Okay, board vote. Or did we have first and second? I guess we did. Okay, that was passed 6-1 then. Okay, now, the moment you all been waiting for. Anybody tired yet? Okay, other action item 1 is an update on the Joseon Charter School relocation project, and Mr. Khan has some information for us and to consider some timeline options, and I think there's some new information coming.
Thank you, Mr. Knackstead, trustees, Dr. Washer. A lot can happen in a 24-hour period, but I would like to, prior to getting into this, I'd like to thank both the board's architect and also the board's contractor on this. So, the board may recall on May 7th, we introduced the possibility of a delay in delivering the site to both programs due to possible delay in the fire suppression water tank and a possible delay in the connection of the new electrical panel or switchgear at the site. The architect has been working over the last couple weeks, scouring our utility bills at Serna, and electrical consultant also confirms that usage is such that we can temporarily connect the portables plant at the site to the existing panel. Also, contractor in discussions noted that in Stanislaus County, they prepared a school with the fire suppression water tank that was also delayed by using a replacement or temporary tank. Also, the architect presented that idea as well as just providing a fire watch over the site until the water tank was in place to the inspector of record. Inspector of record basically said it seemed like a good idea to him. So as such, there is no delay anymore, at least in terms of what I believe. I believe we can deliver the original plan, which was 5 portables relocated from the Serna site at 19 Central Avenue to the Houston site at Acampo Road. We were, I believe the board may recall, going to add 1 portable because one of the Serna portables was not compliant and could not be moved. We did arrange for that. However, we released that and to see whether or not the alternative option would work better for the board. That was purchasing the 6 new portables. We are no longer recommending purchasing 6 new portables, but we do seek direction for 1 new classroom portable. Also, the Serna site requested a conversion of a room on the west side of the Houston site. That room is on our layouts referred to as a storage room. We looked into converting that site into the Serna office. The estimates on that are well above $250,000. There are hazmat issues given the old paint and the asbestos in the walls. and the DSA timeline for conversion is reckoned to be 11 to 12 months. An alternative would be just to buy an office portable from the same vendor that you'll see on the next item or the next action item. It comes ready fitted as an office. The idea would be to insert it between the restroom portable, which is the portable that will be closest to the actual permanent buildings, then the Serna office portable, and then 5 of the relocated portables and 1 brand new one. Vendor tells us that they have plenty of portables available, but that we have to strike fast, not because availability of the classroom inventory, but availability of transportation of those items to the site. Net, if the board does provide direction, we will bring back the new portable and the new portable office building on Thursday as a special session. But the net is the site will actually gain 1 extra room, and that's that storage room that we cannot recommend converting due to cost and the issues related to it.
Okay, wait, hang on. So, does this mean that the Houston site will be ready to be moved into at the beginning of the school year?
I believe it will be, and I'm recommending that we move forward with the original plan.
Okay, so we buy only 1 new portable, not the 6. We move in by the beginning of the school year. Buy an office portable instead of trying to retro an old beat up junky one that DSA probably won't, approve in the first place. And somehow, we gain 1 extra room, and it's no additional added cost for what we've already been talking about.
There will be added costs for the 2 new portable
Yes.
units, and then there will be added costs for 1 additional pad.
Okay.
We do not believe in any shape or form will exceed the 10% change order limit under government code. I've talked to the contractor several times about that. They are highly confident that the extra ground can be prepared.
Sounds good. Okay, any other board comments?
Yeah, questions. Well, I appreciate that we're going to be moving everyone at once on time. Have we communicated this to the teachers, the families at both schools of a plan to move? We are 7 days from the end of the year, and I know if I was a parent or I was a teacher in a classroom, I would be very concerned that I don't know where I'm going and what I'm doing. While you can pack a box, you also have to show some respect to all those people about what the game plan is, and we are less than a week from the last day of school. So when those children leave school, then not knowing of where we're going and what we're doing, do we have a game plan and itinerary ready for both schools?
I believe we do. I do apologize for the timing of this. We did not find out about the electricity switch until the email was sent at 11:11 yesterday morning. Unfortunately, I didn't get it till about 3 o'clock. But discussed with superintendent, I believe this will happen on time. We prepared what we call a hack. That's what the kids call it, a video of the current status. We've also emailed the principals with a link to the hack and instructions for move. I know it's late, but if there are any issues, I'm sure we can accommodate them. My hope is that the teachers will only pack personal belongings and then whatever wall hangings they wish to take. Anything else, textbooks, larger items, furniture, certainly, anything else can be tagged and the moving company will take care of that. I'm told the movers will take digital pictures of the classrooms that everything comes out of, and where possible, they will just deliver everything exactly where it is in the new site.
And so when will we be conveying this to both Houston and to Serna, and when will they have a definitive time frame? I understand what we're doing, but I want to make sure that before everyone leaves the last day of school, everyone is comfortable and content with where we're headed in the game plan.
The email was sent out today. There was a meeting this morning with M&O to discuss the move, so that's being prepared. Board may recall that The move was originally scheduled for June 3rd. We asked the mover to, and the board's already approved the PO for that. It's a $78,000 PO. But we've asked the mover to relent, so we have to go back and reschedule with them. I don't think it'll be substantially different than the June.
This sounds like great news, and everybody should be sighing a big sigh of relief and a big thank you.
Well, anything can change, but
Yeah,
it is
I know,
very
I know,
good
but
news
it is.
right now.
Mr.
Considering
Conlon,
where we were.
is it possible for the parents, the administrators, and the board to get weekly updates on where we are with Serna?
If they don't mind looking in my face on a video,
Well,
we could do that.
I'm talking about updates on the actual on the ground. Who's going to be the CM on this?
Dee.
Do we have a
Construction.
liaison with the district doing that? Do we have somebody in the F&P doing that?
We're doing it. F&P is doing it.
The F&P is going to be watching the CM from Dee Dee, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is it possible then to get a weekly update as part of the Friday Hot Topics?
Or via video if you'd prefer.
Make it public.
And we
I would
can-
rather make it public, but I'd also like to know how we're doing on the electrical, the water, and so forth, and if there's any hangups, that we could have that ready for the parents, and then also meet with them. Maybe they have some ideas and can troubleshoot.
I believe there's a meeting tomorrow night. But also on the top of every one of Lodi Unified School District's webpage are a series of static links or menus. They don't change from site to site. They are district links. One of them is bonds and projects. That's where we will post every single information, every single informational. We can certainly do them once a week. We could probably do them even more often than that.
Well, as being the former department head for science and living through the mold at Tokay High School, I don't have much confidence. And I was department head, I had to teach in home economics, AP biology for a whole semester. And was able to hopefully get it done. I think my confidence level will be a lot better, and so would the people out there, if we were really transparent on every little issue. Okay, because on the mold, and Mr. Heverly could speak about this because his wife was involved as well, we didn't get all the data. And it was last minute this and that. Teachers were affected. Some of them couldn't even go back to their own classroom. And so I've lived through this with this district, and I want to make sure that those people don't have to go through what I did as department head and facilitate all the teachers as well and trying to make them feel accommodated. So the more open we are, the more transparent, the better. Because I think, and this is just me, I'm not speaking for the board, I think there's been a lack of transparency on this whole issue. Our president, a year ago, said that you will be in at this time, and then 2 weeks ago we were told no. So transparency was lacking. I think we need a CM here at the district. When a project's initiated, we know what's going along the way. And so we don't have last minute problems. And I think there's an issue with the electrical and the switch that wasn't transparent. So I have my concerns, and anything you can do to alleviate me, and then of course, more importantly, those kids and their parents would be greatly appreciated. Okay? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, I also want to make sure that we understand that there's two schools merging. I know we all know that on the surface, but not only is there the anxiousness about, are we going to be ready to move, are we not? There's also another school waiting to receive Joseon. And so I want to make sure that we're just as aware of Houston's feelings in this. And I'm not going to try to be too touchy-feely, but when there's unknown on both ends, it can cause some difficulty. And I think the lack of knowing on this probably has heightened the stress. And so I think the transparency, as my fellow board member, Mr. Porter, said, we can't move forward without the transparency, at least to have them have faith in our abilities to make decisions and follow through and complete them on time and on task. And I appreciate your help on this, Mr. Khan.
Mr. Neely?
Thank you, sir. I talked to both principals today, and actually met with Allison out at Houston today, and we went around and looked at things. I totally agree with you on that need for the office classroom. That place would take a lot of work on that one room there. She had also mentioned something about, well, I think staff members are using the restroom in her office as a staff restroom. It might be a good idea if we could find another restroom. Or is the one that the portable restroom you're suggesting on getting, is that for students or is that for staff?
It's got boys on one side, girls on the other, staff restroom.
Oh, it does, so it's got, okay, great, that's fantastic.
And then I'll remind the board also that the Measure U architect for the Houston site has been retained. Bathroom renovations are one of the big items on the Measure U.
Right, good deal, okay. And I just want to say that, the original application for the PG&E went in back in January. I think Mr. Khan was trying to alert us to the possibility of a problem at our last board meeting. And if he hadn't, and we had a problem, and we couldn't move, that would have been a disaster. At least he told us what was going on, and in the meantime has worked to get this thing worked out. We're going to be able to move. Some of us jumped on the bandwagon, including myself, a little bit too soon, and said, let's just not do it.
Right.
Because, we don't want to, at the time it seemed like a prudent decision. Timetables have not been our friend on this. We've done the best we can on it. Mr. Khan, I think you've done a great job of going out and trying to get everybody what they want during this last 2 weeks, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Communication is very important, and we communicated last meeting on the bad things, and we all attacked, not attacked you, but attacked the way it was going. Now, it has changed because you made some research on it, and you're very confident that this project is ready to go in I call it September. That's how you used to start school in September. It's July now.
Well, I think one of the major problems is we have a crying need in F&P. And we have major developments coming up with Lodi High, Tokay, we're in about $130 million. And we need people in F&P, and they're already there, some of them, to facilitate better oversight so that we are meeting deadlines. And if we're not, we're well informed. Because I do not like to be the point of, why didn't you look into this? I like to be informed. Now, had the project been told by me we need to get done in a year and a half, it would have gotten done. That's just who I am.
I don't think that we ever replaced all the people that we cut back during that time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's tough. Mr. Khan, I know you're trying to do a lot there to keep the cost down, but if you need some more people there, we need to hear about it. We need to talk about that.
Mitch is going when? When is he leaving, Mr. Khan?
July.
And it's June 22nd.
June 22nd. We have that today now. If we can get one before June 22nd, Mr. Pelican, when are you going to conduct the interviews to this facility?
Posted.
It's posted.
Posted the day I received it.
For M&O, but F&P is our third go around.
F&P's been going 3 rounds.
Yeah. Okay,
Wow.
cool. All right.
By the way, if you guys haven't seen the hack on the website, you need to look at it. Mr. Khan is absolutely marvelous on the video there.
Okay, is there any comments from the public that, if you can, kind of hold it to, not worrying about past mistakes, but what we're doing right now?
Of course, Aaron Lang was Serna parent, but I'd also like to firstly say thank you to the board, to the staff, to Mr. Collins, everyone for rallying this together, and I hope that we will be able to meet that deadline of July 30th, correct? Secondly, I'd like to echo and applaud the comments of Member Porter and McFarland. I certainly appreciate those words. I think transparency is incredibly important, and in fact, I would ask, and maybe we can get at some point here agreement of the board to have a standing agenda item on this agenda for every board meeting you have as an action item to review these issues so we are ready and prepared to take quick action if need be to make sure that we can stay on that timeline that is now very, very tight. I'm hoping that we can do that. Finally, I would like to also say that I'm calling on the board and staff to absolutely support both schools. And I totally agree with Member McFarland who says that this is Houston receiving. They have a lot of work that still needs to be done on that campus. And I know some teachers and staff are making moves as well. We Serna parents and teachers and staff are absolutely sensitive to that. I'm only one volunteer, but I will help out. And we've got my father in the audience as well. In 1980 something, he built the playground at Turner School when that kind of stuff was still allowed. With a bunch of his farmer buddies. So parents are absolutely willing to help and be involved and to help be part of the solution and not part of the problem. But we still have a lot of work yet to be done. Just because we say it's possible doesn't mean it will be done. And so we need to be accountable and we need to be vigilant on tracking our milestones that are given to us by DD Construction, by PG&E, by every person that's involved. We need to have that weekly report to make sure that we are catching when we're late and fixing the problem immediately so we can make sure to hit those deadlines. So I do applaud those suggestions and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Any other comments from the public? What? Yeah.
There was a meeting that Mr. Khan mentioned. You said tomorrow?
I think it's tomorrow.
I believe it's tomorrow.
Dr. Washer, could you?
For what?
Is that the planning committee meeting?
Is it this joint?
We'll post it on the
The
website.
Joseon Advisory Board,
We'll post it for you, for everybody, what it is.
Okay. All right. Well then, do I have a motion?
There's no action.
Oh, this is an action
meeting
item.
tomorrow is at 5 PM at Joseon, and it's the committee. Allison, can you,
Is it, I'm sorry, Ms. McFarland, I think there's some confusion. Is it the planning committee or the Joseon advisory committee?
were you asking about the Joseon meeting? This meeting at
That,
Joseon.
he mentioned a Joe Serna meeting, I had not heard about it. And as we talked about communication, that's what I was asking. What meeting was it tomorrow, Joe Serna?
It's their right, go ahead, Allison.
Allison Mettler, Joe Serna parent. It is the Joe Serna Advisory Board meeting. Because we are a charter school, we have to have a board just like you guys to approve anything that money decisions that go through our school.
Okay.
Is that all I have to say?
All right, great.
So definitely. And
It's a Joe Serna meeting.
Thank you.
It's a regular scheduled meeting and you're our delegate to that. Yeah. So that's why Ms. McFarland knows about it.
Okay. Have a motion to approve this yet?
There is no action here. We will continue with the original.
No action on it, even though it says action item, huh?
So what we have asked for is direction on whether or not we may proceed with the purchase of the one classroom building and then the one office building.
Decide the two now.
Well, we're gonna pull that because we don't wish to buy 6 new portables at this point.
Okay, so we're pulling item 2, it's gone.
Pull OAI 2.
Okay, out.
And then this was an info or an action. If the board chose the alternative option, then there would have been an action. But right now, we will bring back a resolution on Thursday, but I did see.
Okay.
Just to clarify, Mr. President, so that folks know what's going on, we keep saying Thursday. There is going to be a special closed session for the board on Thursday. So our intent was to add one action item on that same evening right before closed session so that we could get the portable and the administrative building.
Okay, gotcha.
We did discuss it with the attorney, and the attorney did indicate that that would be okay, that it would be okay also to seek direction and then cure the issue as it stands on Thursday.
Look, if we bring back, we're gonna have to post a special meeting.
It's good.
Correct, which we are going to do anyway, but it's a closed, right now it's a closed session special meeting, which will get posted. So if we have an open item, it would be a one agenda item, or you can amend it now.
I'm okay with that.
Let's get it done.
Let's get it done so people know what's going on.
So what do you need?
So the item would now be authorization to proceed to agreement with, under the Pajara Valley piggyback, as indicated in OAI 2, with the exception of we would only be purchasing one classroom portable, one new classroom portable, and one new office portable.
I move we do exactly what Mr. Khan just suggested.
I'll second. This will be
I
a
second that.
voice vote.
Too late.
Oh, yeah, and this will be a voice vote? Oh, okay. You're up.
So it's,
Coming up.
I'm on only one.
You need to amend the motion, that the amendment needs to be passed.
Correct,
And then you vote on the amended motion.
correct, so it's two votes.
Right.
So the first one is.
So we're voting on timeline right now?
no.
Voice vote for the amendment.
Okay, so this is not the amended one that's coming up.
Amendment is to purchase one classroom portable and one office portable.
That'll be a voice vote.
That's OAI 2.
You have to vote on that. So if you need a
We're skipping that?
restroom portable on here also?
At this point, we don't believe so. I would prefer to wait to see what the measure you designed delivers on the bathrooms at the Houston site.
So we are doing a voice vote now on Mr.
You're voting on the amendment,
On-
to approve the amendment.
Mr. Khan's amendment.
Real quick before we vote, do you want to put the option of the additional restroom in it so that if something happens and we don't have?
If the board wishes, we can always do that, but that would have to be DSA approved, number one, and number two, it would have to be plumbed.
We gotta get this done now.
And I'm not sure where we would put it, honestly.
We gotta get this done now. School stuff. Okay, voice vote.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion approves. You guys are done.
No, one more vote, one more vote.
One
We
more
have to vote to do
The amended version.
Okay, oh, yeah.
Now you vote on the item.
All right. We have, still have the same person second?
No, it's one time a week, another motion.
Okay, Ms. Neely?
Vote to approve OAI 2.
Second.
Okay, now we'll vote.
As amended.
As amended.
As amended.
And this will be.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
Mr. Connexton.
Yes, sir.
Before we move on, you're all set with weekly updates and making sure that Houston's included and we're set.
Yep.
You got it.
You got it.
Both staffs are included.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Earl.
Okay, number 3, Ms. McKilligan, fully qualified educators.
Mr. President, this is a required item for the commission and needs board vote to approve.
Okay, any discussion? Call for the vote?
Discussion. So I know this is an annual thing, so we're saying possibility of 130? 130?
It's an annual guess. It's an annual guess, we have to guess high, because if we guess low.
And it's gotta go way high because we can't go back.
I think
Now,
Michelle wants it.
Don't move.
Yeah, please. So, I know we do this annually. This number seems much higher than last year. So maybe a board member or, I don't know if I can suggest coming back to the board with a report with how many interns we had this year. My number that I'm working from was 76. I know at the last 3 board meetings, we had a lot of resignations. What are we doing to retain our teachers? What are we doing to keep them? What are we, this turnover every year is too hard on our school sites and our teachers. What do we need to do differently to educate? If we need another 130 teachers next year, holy moly, where are we going to get them? Especially after we accepted resignation after resignation at the last 3 personnel reports. What are we doing to keep them, to make sure, coach them, keep them in our district and not go somewhere else? So 130, wow. And the CLAD issue, with the number of schools that we need that have that, we need to make sure that we have some coaching going on right away so that our literacy skills for our second language learners are not met. So maybe we can follow up with some education on the number of interns we had this year, last year, and our projection. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Do we have a motion, have first and second to approve
We
the?
already did.
Yeah, we haven't voted yet.
Vote here.
Yeah, that's just where I was going. Calling for the board vote.
It's the time, that's what
I
I'm
know.
about, the time.
Okay, that passes 7-0. And where are we now? Number 4.
President Connected, members of the board, Dr. Washer, this is a follow-up to the Lodi Unified School District's application to CDE to reinstate some ADA due to the fire, the days lost due to the fire and air quality issues back in November. This is for the preschool. It amounts to approximately 2 days of ADA loss, a total of $10,000, $10,500.
I move we approve.
Second.
Okay, any board comments? Any public comments? Call for the vote. Motion passes 7-0. Mr. McKilligan, you have some routine matters?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve personnel matters.
Okay, any comments? What? Okay, call for the vote then, no comments. Okay.
Thank you. Good tradition, you should fine.
Mr. McKilligan? Okay, comments from employees? Anything new?
It's the same.
Wait a minute, you don't have a binder there, do you?
Nope.
Okay, good.
President Conexon, members of the board, Dr. Washer, those in the audience who are suffering with this issue, I am sure your email boxes have been inundated by this issue. We have, as of, I believe it was April, lost many sub-paras and PAWs out of classrooms. This directly affects every single one of those teachers who have a support person in their classroom. Without getting a sub for the sub, without hiring a real person to fill that job, and as some of you have heard from my members, as they have told me they have emailed you, some of those people have been in those positions as a sub for more than a year. They're qualified to do that position. We need to hire them. We have IEPs and 504s. We are mandated by law to have those positions filled. We need to make sure that we act on this. And I've been in constant contact with Deb Ladwig. She apologized for not being here. This is, the sub-paras do not fall under either of our bargaining agreements, but it affects both of our bargaining units. Our teachers need that additional help with those students. not for just that one student that may need that help. When that child doesn't have that assistance to help direct them and with curriculum, that teacher then has to do that. And that takes a great deal of time. So now where does the curriculum for the rest of the class go? With Deb's obligation, those are her positions to fill by her employees. My understanding is that we have looked, there were originally, I think, 15 that were identified as they had been there over a long time. We haven't hired them. They're working on it in personnel. I understand in talking to Deb tonight that there's upwards of 20 plus positions that those people have been there that we can hire. Let's do this. They've already got the letter, don't come back for the rest of the year. Then we get the letter of assurances so they can't collect unemployment? Really? These people make bare bottom minimum. To me, that just, it seems wrong if they've been in that position more than a year that we're sending that letter to them. I just am disgusted with that. Our teachers need that additional support and have been identified. We need to do everything we can to get those people hired and in place and ready and keep them there. We need to keep our teachers. They're feeling the frustration. They can't do it all. They teach alongside these people. They are helping them. They have trained them. And to pull somebody who's done crossing guard, who hasn't had CPI training, has absolutely no idea of how this classroom routine works for an hour, for 2 hours, to go from class to class to class and still end up short on someone's IEP is wrong. We talked litigation at the beginning of this board meeting. What's going to happen when these parents find out that these needs are not being met by those 504s, by those IEPs? We need to do what's right by our students and get people hired in those positions. It just is so frustrating to think that some people have been there, I've been told, 5 years and have not been offered a permanent position. So let us do what we can. With curriculum, with PD, you heard from one of my fellow members, Lori Solis, tonight. We would like to see what we can do to continue building PD within our district with our members. We know that in the Live Strong, Teach Strong, there are sessions that are already booked. Within 2 hours, some of them were booked. Let's work on changing the presenter's time. Let's work on getting some other people out to do more. I know I talked to Mr. Connexted about this, the CPR. We've heard from member after member 2 years ago, I want to be trained, I want to be updated on the CPR. And those classes for non-coaches, non-PE that's mandated, filled up within an hour. So they looked at adding more. My understanding is we need to add more. Your teachers are saying what they need. What can we do to move mountains to make sure that they get the professional development that they want, that they need, that they're telling our department, hey, this is really important. The other thing I would say is principals have been writing PIPs. They're putting what they would like those members to be doing and seeing and getting trained in. Have we asked those principals to say, hey, we really could use professional development in this area for our Live Strong, Teach Strong ahead of time, and maybe that's something for further down the line. Tonight we have something on the board agenda, so I'll wait to talk about our bet. Then, as we move forward, we need to make sure we have communication. The parents that were here tonight that talked about a meeting, how did that communication go out? I had no knowledge of it. I turned to 2 of my fellow colleagues. They had no knowledge of it. I said, did you pass out flyers? How did parents know about it? We are still failing if our own personnel don't know about meetings going on. We need to take some serious hard looks about, is this going on our website? When 3 days last week, emails were lost in space for days and hours, they weren't deliverable. If we're counting on our website, what is it? Somehow there's a fault that's cracked and everyone's not getting the messages that the district needs to send out. So I know that's probably another board agenda item at another time, but our communication to our parents, we've talked about it with LCAP, anything that's going out, how are we supposed to be knowing about that? Is it robocalls? Is it a flyer? Is it a letter? Or is it you have to be on Twitter or Facebook in order to have the updates? And I have to tell you, you know, you can't live 24/7 on social media. So please look into how we're communicating with our members and getting the word out about things. Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of think I agree. I am not a website guy, but I do think our website can be improved somehow to make it simpler have a link or whatever for teachers, one for parents. It may have that, but it always seems to me when I get on it, it's hidden. I have to go through a whole bunch of things to find anything. I do think that we can probably look at our website and improve the simplicity of it and then keep it updated for things that like Michelle was talking about. It is kind of complicated. It's just cumbersome. And I don't know if that's just me or anybody else sees it that way too, but I agree with you. Anyway. Any other comments?
And I have found that our app is a great source of meetings and information. So
what is?
Our app, our
yeah.
meeting app.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Much better than the website.
Thank you. Mr. Palmquist, are you in the house? Oh, no, Dr. Washer, you're up next. Do you have a report for us?
No,
Okay.
further comments, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Palmquist, you have, we've already done dual enrollment. She's gone. So you're up with Valley Robotics, and maybe you could do that and CTE all at one time and get it going. Chapter 10.
The board's pleasure. President Conexon, members of the board, Dr. Washer, thank you very much. As requested, a standing item for Valley Robotics update. I do have Dr. Stacy Connor, a principal, that I'd like to ask to come up, just should you have some questions. We have prepared an executive summary for you, giving you some updates. Dr. Washer did mention the good news, our enrollment actuals, and if we can go one slide forward, you can see that. I know the board has this. They're actually going to be even higher than 120 because we had to produce this report, for this, and some have come in at the deadline beyond that. So that is excellent news. We will be holding a lottery this week. I do have to commend Dr. Khan. She has jumped in. We have provided support to make sure her current duties are not going neglected, and she is working a couple of days a week on launching the school, and she has jumped right in. I am very optimistic. Our parent meetings went very well. And with that, I'll let Dr. Khan answer any questions, or if she'd like to offer a sentence or two about how it's going, we'd be happy for that as well.
I'm open to any questions, but I'll let you know, I'm super excited moving forward. We are
We can hear you, but a lot of times they can't.
We are super excited. We're moving along. We have a couple teachers getting ready to get on board. We're getting ready to interview again on Thursday. We've reached out to our middle school teachers that also do robotics or CTE or STEM or those types of things, and we're going to start collaborating either end of this week, beginning of next week. They're super excited about that. We are getting ready to look at what does our year look like? What kind of furniture do we want to have? What does our facility look like? All of those fun and exciting things that we're going to move forward with. And we were faced with a really good problem, a lot of kiddos.
Dr. Khan, I have two questions. Number one, do we have a cap?
Enrollment cap?
Yes.
Yeah, the cap is based on facility and staffing. So just our staffing ratio and facilities.
What is the cap?
We presented 93, and that's what we are able to accommodate at the moment. If
staffing or facilities were able to accommodate more, we would be able to take more.
The reason I asked, you have received 120.
And it's actually probably closer to 130, I think, is going to be our lottery amount.
Okay, and then my second question is, what is your class size?
31 will be the max that we can staff at, but because of the flexible hybrid model, the staffing ratio will be somewhere around 23 students, but then, you know, together at any one time, it'll be around the district average of 31.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Looks very successful so far.
Thanks, guys.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Okay, what about CTE?
Yes, again, President Knaxton, members of the board, I have Julie Jansen here. Julie Jansen is presenting a report item for you. We do have an executive summary for that as well. We are looking for some feedback and some input. This is potentially to come back as an action item, and Julie is going to present the executive summary to you now.
Good evening. I'm sorry, I apologize. I ran out of cough drops about a half hour ago. I apologize.
I ran out of energy an hour.
Sorry. As I had stated when I presented before you in the past, we have the most CTE programs in the entire county. And I know that we're all very proud of that, and I know that it is because we have the support of an amazing board, and I know that it is also a goal of the board to be able to grow those CTE programs. And with growth, you have other challenges that you need to meet as well, and that would be a lot of our CTE programs now are funded through grants. And so I have become a grant writer, and which I don't mind at all. But in doing so, it's really taking me away from being an active principal at my school. And at my school, Lincoln Technical Academy, we also have another school, an adult education school. And so with the CTE programs that we have and the number of programs that we have, and because they're so spread out among the district, because we're the largest district, we don't have the support, the administrative support that we really need to be able to support all these programs that we have. So other districts that are a bit smaller than us have a designated CTE director, and we don't. That's me. Well, I guess we do. But I'm doing a dual role here. I'm the CTE director for the entire district. I'm the grant writer. I take care of 14 CTE budgets, all of which have their own reporting requirements. We have what we call 11 elements of a high quality CTE program, and those are actually the requirements for all CTE programs that we have in the district throughout the state. And those 11 elements have been set forth by the California Department of Education. So there are lots of requirements. There's a lot of accountability that goes along with the funding that we receive. So we want to grow. I want to be able to do that with both our adult education and our CTE programs, but I need help. And that's what I'm asking for. I'm not asking for additional funding. The funding that we receive through CTE with all the grants that we're writing and whatnot, and several of our grants that we receive, by the way, are ongoing. So they are money that we receive every year. And so that's why I'm not asking for any additional money. I'm able to support this position with the funds that I already have. And I'm open to any questions.
You said that you spend the majority of your time grant writing. Is that correct?
Yes.
First of all, congratulations. Very nice job that you do.
Oh, thank you.
Don't we have grant writers in the district?
We do. We do have a grant writer,
and
I do work with her on some grants. But other grants, you really need CTE expertise. I'm not calling myself an expert, but I've been in CTE for 15 years. And I was in CTE when all CTE programs went away, when it was flourishing, and then it went away, and now it's flourishing again. And it came back full force with a lot of accountability and whatnot, and with this grant writing piece of it as well.
Right.
And I'm not saying that that's the only reason that I need some help is because of the grant writing, and it's a huge part of it. It does take a lot of my time, but it is the reporting that is involved in all of these budgets. And
Okay,
also,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what exactly do you want?
I want a vice principal.
Good.
Okay, and
We'll put that on the committee. Do something.
yeah, I think so. In addition to that, am I reading this right, that you have it figured out that it won't even cost any money to have this vice principal?
I can fund the vice principal with the funds that I already receive. I'm not asking for additional funds.
Oh, I think this is a done deal.
Thank you, I just wanted to know. Let's do it.
Then we will be bringing back an action item at the next board meeting. Good.
Unless you just want to give it to me now.
Only one vice principal, is that what you want? I thought you needed something else.
Just one?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
Simple.
What sir? You want to give?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Magic carpet.
Just so you know, this is not anything new. Your predecessor, Debbie, also was constantly working with the budgets, and those things have a lot of reporting, a lot of accountability, and it's just crazy when you have that many different ones at different times, and
Yes.
I get it.
Yes.
So we'll get on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Katowski, how about math achievement? And I know that you are the best on executive summaries. You've really got it down cold. I don't know about your compadre there, but.
The short time?
Yeah, he's gonna stay.
Oh, thank you. Okay, President Knaxton, members of the board, and Dr. Washer, we're very pleased to be here for the second time to share our math achievement results. I don't have a clicker, so can we go to the next slide? And pretty much I have this down in 3 slides. We wanted to talk a little bit about the math achievement and where we're at. And Randy's here to talk about the data piece of it, because I get all tongue-tied about that. But I just want us to recognize that, you know, in 2014, we moved to Common Core Mathematics. In 2015, we moved from the CST testing to our new SBAC testing, which then changed how we test. Instead of being able to provide answers very quickly in a rote memorization type of thing, our questions became multi-level questions with multiple answers inside of a question. And in some cases, you might have 6 right answers, and you have to identify all 6 right answers in order to get the question correct. And so that changed how that should have changed some of the things that we would see in our instructional approaches with our students. One thing I can tell you is that, you know, we have not, you know, our percent proficient in advanced has pretty much remained unchanged over the time, over the years. It hasn't gone up dramatically, it hasn't gone down dramatically, except for maybe at the high school. There's a severe drop in achievement at the high schools. The middle schools and the elementary schools all kind of stay within the same area. I do want to say that our benchmarks have shown some promise of students achieving proficiency. What we have been doing is we have been providing instructional support through our district math coaches. We've done a variety of different approaches over the years. We've placed them out at school sites, we've placed them at the district office, they visit classrooms, they have done a variety of different things to try to incorporate what we would call the Common Core standards for mathematics and the 8 mathematical practices. Instruction has to change if we expect our children to increase. I know that might be I don't know, you know, the next 3 nights I've just been a target, so that might be a bad word to say tonight, but we do have to do some changing of motivation of staff and students. We have been a member of the Silicon Valley Math Institute membership. Has not gone over well. Our teachers don't like to go there. They won't go there. We pay for everything, and there is something that comes back from that. However, there's great reluctance to attend that. The district has a membership, and the district would pay for everything for our teachers to go. We are getting greater results at our elementary, with our elementary teachers seeing the value of that and attending. But most of our middle and high school teachers are reluctant to go. We've purchased the personalized Dreambox, which is an adaptive software program to help students that are far behind move forward. We did attempt a pilot after-school program at 3rd grade, which we had our little debrief. It was very successful. The teachers were successful. The students, they felt, were very successful. So we are working on expanding that to the 3 weeks in summer for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and also going 6th through 10th with our incoming students for a full summer school program, which we did last year, which was very well received, and the students made some tremendous growth. And we, because we qualified for the low performing block grant, which you approved in January, much of that will be focused next year on targeting secondary mathematics. Next slide, please. So why are we changing? I believe it's motivation. Motivation for change on students. Students, when you get into high school and you've had 4 years or 5 years of not being successful, you may not want to be there anymore. You are not motivated. Motivation on teachers to kind of change their approach. Sometimes it's just a very small twist of an instructional strategy that turns it into a very highly effective instructional strategy, but continuing down the same place hasn't been productive for us. We need to make sure that the pedagogy changes to meet Common Core. And so one of our solutions is to try to develop some administrator understanding of what the highly effective mathematical instructional strategies are, and try to bring the teachers out again for some change and articulation between all the school sites. I'm sorry I was not very brief. That is it for us. If you'd like to have data, Randy's prepared, as you can see.
Any questions?
I see your solutions, and I think there's probably, in my opinion, and I'm one person, math is, I believe, one of those things that's critical. You've heard me say it before. We want people to be able to read, because that's like a door opening. Well, math is the same thing, and your ability to math will also determine your ability in science. They're locked together. So it is important, and I've been on this for a while, that we do something to help out kids learning math. And it's really much more than just percentages. I mean, these are little human beings. They're numbers that mean something behind that number. A few years ago, I had a conversation with a teacher about math, the new Common Core math, and she said something I thought was as simple as it gets. She says, if you want student success, you have to have a really good curriculum and a really good teacher. Well, I believe we have really good math teachers, and you've heard me say it before, and I'll say it till doomsday, that Common Core math is a failure. That curriculum, we're all in the same boat. I mean, it's not Lodi Unified. Common Core math fails in a lot of areas, but one of them is the parents can't help them. When you take that component away from them, of course I'm on a soapbox now, it's nothing you're going to handle, is that we just lost a secondary teacher after school, or back to the primary teacher, to reinforce all that stuff. They want to look at their book and there's no examples in there. It's just a bunch of stuff. So that is a problem. Is there any way, is there any way that you see how we can modify that and bring in some of the old stuff too that would help piggyback on that so that these kids can have some success? Like you said, failure year after year, that's not acceptable. I'm not a big conference person, but I knew Common Core was coming, so I went to a CSBA conference, and the gentleman was talking about it, and it was specifically math. He was one of the guys that wrote Common Core math. And he's, I'm sure, a nice enough fella, but he was a total math head. I mean, this guy loved math. And he was saying, yeah, you know, you just present it and they get it. And I'm going, what? And I'm thinking, wow, with that kind of mentality, we're in trouble. So do you see any kind of adjustment to the curriculum that is coming to us from outside? Yes, no, maybe. I mean,
The answer is, if there is something better that we could be using that the teachers would agree to, of course, there could be an adjustment. It would have to be, you know, approved by the board and the teachers. I don't believe, you know, sometimes the parents struggle, but homework isn't, well, see, now I'm gonna get on a soapbox because you shouldn't be sending home homework the kids don't understand. And so that talks about what are we doing in the classroom. And that is probably not where we want to have this discussion tonight. But yes, the answer is yes.
so there are state-approved alternatives to that are kind of, they've practiced, they've tried it, and then they have kind of a different version of Common Core math that would help. Because when we adopted, there was no Math 2 textbook, there was no Math 3 textbook, but we were forced to adopt something that didn't exist.
All of those textbooks are, they are available now.
They
all
exist now, but that's the
exist.
lunacy
Teachers have
behind
gone to training. And our current program is one of the approved programs. Sure. And there are other programs that have come along that could be maybe different. I'm not so sure that the results would be any different.
Yeah, there you go. That's kind of what I was looking for. And certainly it's not anything unique to Lodi Unified or to you or to, right. It's just I was kind of really hoping that there would be some kind of a, I don't know, supplemental thing that fills in the weaknesses of the Common Core math curriculum. But the answer to that is no.
I think it's a two-pronged thing. As I said, I think it's teacher strategy, teacher pedagogy, and students. I think if because we have seen some glimmers of teachers that are teaching differently, and their growth is exceeding other classes. As we go through classrooms and we look at classrooms and our coaches are working with them, there are some teachers that are changing their strategies and the growth of their students are much better than other classrooms. That's just tentative.
Sure, without data though, it's anecdotal. So if we do know that, then those would be kind of best practices, and it's incumbent upon us to kind of go, hey, you know, we've discovered this works at this grade. Spread the word then.
And we do have some data that supports that. It's just, a year's worth of data, but it's just a piece of data that we're looking at.
And I'm sure the testing isn't helping us either, but, the tests that they have to take.
Yeah.
Okay. Definitely. Yeah.
I have a quick question for you. How are we doing against like schools?
Pardon me?
How are we doing data-wise against like schools with same populations?
In general, with the county, where usually...
Well, I'm talking statewide.
Well, they don't provide us the same that they used to with like schools, but when we compare to schools in the county...
That are like us?
That are like us, we're generally pretty close. Sometimes a little bit higher, sometimes a little bit lower, but we're about the same achievement level on the state test.
So this is pretty consistent with other school districts?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
And the state level as well.
Now, when you did the data, are they finding the same solutions that you are? Because you offered administrators to develop teachers and so forth, release time during workday. Are those the same things that they're looking at, the other like schools, to improve their test scores on math?
I don't know the answer to that. I haven't contacted, the other districts in the state to say, what are you doing?
Yeah, because, I mean, if you're saying this is across the board, then there's something inherently wrong overall. Okay, thank you.
It's just you need a new math now. Remember the new math? I mean, this math, this has been going since I was a little kid. I know what 2 + 2 is and 4 + 4 and all that, multiplication table and all that. I don't know what happened to that, can you multiply 8 times 7? What is that, New math is not good math, to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because the problem in the beginning, when we first brought out the Common Core, was that one of the problems was that the testing was so different from the prior version, and also it was much different than what was being taught. The thought is that you take these basics and you apply them to that test. 3 things, to be successful in a test: you got to understand the material, but you got to also know how to take the test. And then you got to have motivation to pass that test as well. So I did. My students did pretty well in the classroom, but I made sure that they knew test-taking strategies as well. Are we doing that? I'm assuming that we are, because here's the bottom line. And I've said this before, but the difference between English language, Randy, you look as tired as I am. I tell you, this is about it, buddy. We've hit our limit. But the difference between English language arts and math, okay, and I do it like this because that's the way it is, but it's the same statewide. And our difference is actually a little bit better. We have a little bit less difference between English language arts and math than the rest of the state. And we've shown some good improvement on that. So, everyone's to be commended on that, but when you look at how low the numbers are, that's just really disappointing.
With respect to the test-taking strategies, one of the things that our students do from 2nd grade through 5th grade is all of their math assessments, they're all online.
Yeah.
So the students are used to going online, they're used to using the tools, the highlighter, those kind of things to help that, so that technology or lack thereof, the knowledge thereof, doesn't get in their way.
Right.
So that's one of the things that hopefully we're able to take out of the picture. We do the same thing at high school as well. So having that opportunity both in ELA and math at elementary and middle school gives our students the opportunity to at least have access to the tool and to be utilizing that tool on a regular basis.
Thank you. Great report. Next.
All right, thanks.
Fix it.
Fix it, okay. Got my magic wand.
That's board guidance.
Yeah.
Mr. Khan, you have 2. I guess you better give us a real quick rundown because we'll need to vote on it next time, right?
If you don't mind, the first item is the technology reorg. This is the second time the board has seen this.
You're right.
There's one slight change. At the bottom of the list, there's now a typist clerk 2 rather than an account clerk 2. That was requested by the director. This will be a no cost reorg.
Okay.
And then the second item is potential cost for hooking the Extension Road site up to City of Lodi municipal water. We could wait approximately 3 years to see whether or not we receive a grant, but with the added students and staff out at that site, I think it's important to begin the process. City of Lodi reckons this will be somewhere under $250,000. I will caution that it is only drinking water, Sewage will not be available to the site until the Walmart down to Harney Lane development actually gets closer to Harney Lane. That could be 5 to 10 years out.
So water comes in, but water doesn't go out.
And it goes out through the leach line, so, but that will impact our ability to actually put permanent structure in certain places on the site, but if the board wishes, we can bring both.
Is this the independent school you're talking about now?
This will be where the Valley Robotics is in
Okay.
Independence and Henderson, yes.
All right.
So,
Okay.
if the board wishes, we'll bring that back as an action item.
Whenever you're ready to vote on it, or for us to vote on it, yeah, bring it back.
Get it done.
Okay, and then,
You know, I've been looking at the technology reorganization for 2 meetings now, and I figured out what it was, but if there was just 2 sentences saying this is what we're trying to accomplish or some type of goal, it would have been a lot easier presentation for me.
Understood, and apologies about that.
And maybe going forward, when we have these type of reorganizations, if we have what's trying to be accomplished here, then I think I had a couple questions that I had to answer with the superintendent, and it just, if we try to figure out what we're trying to accomplish, then it makes a lot more sense and it's easier to understand this.
So we can include that on the action item.
That'd be great. Thanks.
okay. Mr. Palmquist, you want to do the student data? This is something that was brought up at the last board meeting.
Members of the board, this is a follow-up item per board member request. There were some items that were requested, and the Assessment, Research, and Evaluation Department has provided those items as well. Board comments and public comments were received, and we're taking action and bringing voices together and creating a plan for accountability. I know that I appreciated the comments around making sure that this is a collaborative and not top-down approach, and that is the approach that we are taking to answer hard questions. And then part of my accountability plan is to have each site come and present multiple times per year answers to those hard questions that were posed.
Not all one night.
No, at different times. And
Good idea.
But then that way the board will be able to have ongoing, review, input, and guidance. So these are follow-up items for the board.
Okay.
It looks good. Quick question though, right at the very last sentence is we're starting with English for board input. Are we concentrating on that and then bringing the other stuff all together, or what are we doing?
So we're starting with English. There were several comments. That's our plan, is to start with English because, one, it's a sequential 4-year pathway. It has those requirements. Also, you need to departmentalize, because when the science and the math are different pathways, you have different teachers, different counselor input on that. So we're starting with English as a roadmap for what we think is the most concentrated problem with how students are moving from CP to CP to CP because of the sequential piece, as a roadmap, so that then we can scale. Board also talked about, hey, look at middle school. We need to scale down, we need to scale up. Our focus is going to be that 9th, 10th grade English, because that's where we think the most intensive need is. But yes, the intent is to move forward and expand quickly. But as far as bringing people together to create accountability plans, we wanted to start with something. This was the spot we thought was the highest leverage place to start.
When do you think we'd get to the other courses?
Next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the only reason is you have a Read 180 child.
Mm-hmm.
The only place for them to go at one of our high schools is CP Bio. Come on. They have low math skills, low reading skills. That's going to kill them.
Yeah, we're not going to stop anything we're doing. We're just looking for sort of a framework. I know that this has been a long time coming for some, and we think this is the steps that will show some promise and some accountability.
Perfect. You got to start somewhere. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. LCAP? Ms. Kadowski again? You might as well stay up there and talk about board revisions too.
I could, now I left my binder behind, so if you ask a question, I might not be able to answer it.
Michelle will bring it up for you.
Sure.
Oh, we're going to be
We're gonna both join each other with our gimpy legs. We bring before you a draft of the 2019-20 LCAP. We've shared it with you in the past. One of the things that we would like to let you know is that we haven't changed any of the actions and services. They're all the same, as we have been mentioning all along. We did increase some support to Delta Sierra Middle School, as you can see, matching up to goal 1.12. We increased a halftime counselor for Delta Sierra, and goal 3.6, full-time campus security for that school site. So they fall already in natural order to what our goals, our 3 goals are. So that didn't change anything. We have updated the budget to reflect the current costs of the actions and services. We've provided for you the LCAP budget overview, which is now a new requirement. We've shared that with our committee members a couple of months ago, maybe 3 months ago. We've seen that. It is now part of the LCAP. And then we will be bringing in June what we used to call the local education plan for the federal funds. Now they want it to match up with our LCAP. So the ESEA will match up. It is not done. It does not need to be part of the LCAP to be approved, but it will join the LCAP when we submit it. Just letting you know, because we'll be coming next week, 2 weeks, for the public hearing. So, okay.
Dr. Washer?
Yes, sir.
Do we need to look at placement of vice principals at our elementary schools based on somewhat, I mean, our Title I schools require a lot more paperwork. They have, some of those schools have more discipline problems that take up time from our principals. So do we need to look at a different way of assigning vice principals to these elementary schools?
Mr. Neely, members of the board, yes. I think we need to look at, to be honest, additional FTE. I think that with our current resources, we're stretched pretty thin. As you know, in several of our schools, VPs are half-time, so they're doing, a half-time at one school, half-time at another. We did, based on your support previously, add a full-time vice principal to 2 of our Title I schools. We have heard very good things about that support. Also, you added a full-time counselor to a couple of our Title I schools, and that has shown to be making a huge difference. So yes, additional FTE at the elementary vice principal level is greatly needed. We're not asking this year for additional FTE. Didn't feel that we had funds to do that. But if the board so chooses, absolutely, that would be something that we would greatly appreciate and would be well used.
I know where to find the funds.
Okay.
We just talked to Mr. Khan.
So along that lines then, would something like elementary vice principals, would that fall under our LCAP discussion, or would that fall under our budget discussion?
Mr. Haley, members of the board, it would fall under both.
Okay.
But it would be additional funds. So the board would have to agree to allocate additional FTE, because right now we're using all the FTE we have, all the resources we have.
So if we wanted to add, if we wanted to do that through LCAP and the budget of LCAP, I know it's a draft, but it's set, right? So we would have to take something out to put something in.
That would be the magic pencil that Mr. Khan has. We'd have to talk about how we could find the resources, or if we would have to eliminate something to put something in.
Because right now, this is an increase of $100,000.
We did allocate money in the LCAP to support Delta Sierra already. That was included. This just shows you what we're doing.
Right, yes.
Yeah, so if we were to add vice principals, we would need to go back and relook at budget and see how we could make that work, and if anything would need to be switched.
And that falls under which discussion?
Both.
Okay.
Is that something you want us to look at?
I have a whole bunch of stuff I want us to look at.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of needs out there.
Yes, there are.
And, we, just like last year, I'd like to kind of do the same thing. We added a few more vice principals, a few more counselors, a few more custodial, and we had to mix it up. And I think if we can take another step towards that, that would be a great idea.
Keeping in mind that we don't have additional revenue coming in. So that's why we have been trying to hold to current level of services.
Right.
So yes, anything that would fall outside of that, we would have to have a discussion about priorities.
Last LCAP question then, we're on a 3-year cycle, right?
Yes.
Now, does that one go away and this one come in, or is it at the end of 2020, that document goes away and a new document comes in? For 3 years.
You're gonna love this answer,
Oh, boy.
because it's a very typical CDE answer. This document will be good until the end of next year. While we're working through next year, we will have a brand-new template with a new format to create for the next 3 years. So they're
Didn't we have a new
changing it all
template
up for
last year?
us. They did that a couple of years ago.
And the one before that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
it
well,
just keeps my brain nimble. What can
I
you say?
just want to make sure, I didn't know if we could just keep adding on to it, or it has to stop and then the new one comes.
That's too simple.
They'll figure it out sooner or later. Too simple. They have to justify their existence, because they're certainly not helping.
Okay, how about your
board policy?
vision?
Board policies,
board
I think
policy
I brought
revision.
3 board policies. I didn't bring my binder up with me for your first review of a board policy. One on equity, bus conduct, video camera surveillance, and bullying. One of them, we just had to change the numbers because we had the wrong numbers on them, but they come from, we're updating them based on our notification from our organization that those should be brought forward, and using that organization as our template for the new policy, which I believe is equity.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Any questions? All right. And we're down to Dr. Washer.
Oh, thank you. Members of the board, we have an item to discuss IPD, individual professional development for teachers. This is something that has been discussed through the ARBET, and the board has been hearing reports from the ARBET. We're at a point now where we understand that there may be teachers who would like to speak about it. Board member Neely may have information as well to start this off.
What? You got something to say?
What?
He has nothing to say.
Nothing to say.
Oh.
Look, the only reason, we'd heard several teachers like to talk, and so if we had this just during non-agenda time, then we could not respond. If they had a question, we couldn't answer it, so that's what this is about. We are already scheduled for a new round of negotiations with Leah on Wednesday, the 29th. 29th at 3:30 in the afternoon. So we're looking for public comment.
Yeah, we'll do the public comments. David Hurley, Ansel Adams, the co-chair of the ARBIT committee. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you. We've been working on this process for 18 months. We've had some incredible collaboration. And it was very difficult for the teachers on the committee to see a plan that was put together that was 75% redacted without any communication as to the reasons why. And I think that really was a shot in terms of how we go about in terms of trust. And I think we have to really think about what we're doing to retain our teachers, to train our teachers, to keep the best teachers in the district. I've mentioned it many times before. Teachers only improve with effective professional development, timely and honest evaluation and reflection, and the ability to work with other teachers that mentor them. The plan that we put in place addresses many of those things. As an employee, the district has been on both ends, as an evaluator and as someone who's been evaluated.
I feel our current system is completely ineffective. It's counterproductive to the goals of retaining and creating the best teachers possible. We feel on the committee that we put something together in place that really can move towards that. It's not perfect, and it certainly can be modified, but to see 75% of it cut out without explanation, because it's been available for somebody to talk about for many months prior to that, it was a concern. So I appreciate the opportunity. We're very optimistic about going forth with this, but it's going to take the cooperation of everybody and the belief that, yes, this process is going to make a difference for our teachers and ultimately our students in the district. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Any other comments? Yep.
Good evening, Mr. Conexted, Dr. Washer, members of the board, Martha Snyder, Kristen McCall of middle school. I'm finishing up my 29th year. I think everyone in this room knows how passionate I am about professional development. I was shocked and horrified when I learned of the 75% reduction. I was so hopeful when I got to see the IPD that the RBEC committee put together, because it gives teachers choice. We cannot continue to go, even though the 2 days in July are great, and they're brought together by teachers. We talked tonight about going to conferences and things like that. To do that 75% reduction of the IPD is why there's not equity in professional development in this district. Ms. Garcia talked about it this evening. I love hearing about schools that get to go to conferences and the money that's being spent, but when you start looking around and go school to school to school, it is not equitable. The IPD that was put forth by the RBEC committee speaks to equity, speaks to building teachers, speaks to putting our district back #1 in San Joaquin County and in the Central Valley and in the state of California. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, at this point, I want to make one comment on this.
Sure.
Is that the things that were changed, that were crossed out, you said a redaction, crossed out, was an attempt to make it more concise. It didn't change what actually the meat of it was. It was things that we thought were already covered someplace else. So we got it. We got it. You guys didn't like that, so that didn't fly. So we're going to be talking about something else on the 29th. But I appreciate all the work that you guys put in, and the concept, the original concept of the board was that IPD was to allow teachers to choose their own professional development during the 2 days that they had on their own. I mean, I remember in the beginning here how messed up IPD professional development was. I mean, I remember, I've told this story, standing in a classroom in a circle with other teachers holding a red ribbon reciting a poem, and that was supposed to be IPD, or professional development, anyway, not IPD, professional development. It was ridiculous, and we heard so many complaints about teachers having to take professional development that they didn't really need. So that's why the whole IPD came up. But the RBEC came up with this idea, and they got it from Elk Grove, you know, they do it too, to pay teachers for it. And that made a lot of sense. So that's one thing that we didn't take out. That wasn't crossed out or anything. That made a lot of sense. And it also makes a lot of sense to have a combination of individual professional development. Some college, some local. Some local all the way down to the school site. Because each school knows what they need. And to compensate teachers for doing the extra work on that. And that was brought up by the RBEC. And I think the board in general just totally bought off on that. I think it's a great idea. It's another way, too, of helping retain teachers. So we support that as well. So the things you saw crossed out were things that, like introductions and stuff like that. It wasn't the meat of it. got it, you guys put a lot of work in on that, you didn't like to see that, okay, we can fix that. That's not a problem. The board still remains, as far as I know, everyone's told me this, the board still remains committed to this process and to making this happen. But we understand you didn't like the first cut. That's the first cut, all right? Let's move on.
Any other comments?
Yep.
Council?
Jen Castle, I teach at TOK, and I'm a member of the ARBET committee. What ARBET does best is the collaboration. And I think that what we really didn't like, Mr. Neely, was how those cuts undermined that collaboration. I mean, that was the worst part of this. That Mr. Hurley had said, we worked on this for 18 months and we were determined and we are very committed. We put in a ton of time, and then we would present at the board meetings and we were hearing just glowing positive things, and it seemed like it was all going so well. And then we were able to see the document that was 75% redacted, and it was offensive. I mean, it was, and it undermined that trust, and it eroded that collaboration a great deal. And, you know, there have been various episodes tonight, it's been a long meeting, where there has been talk about transparency, and that's what it calls into question as well. We want to keep collaborating, and we want to keep moving forward, not to have our work just kind of summarily dismissed. That's what it felt like. And, you know, part of it was like, what happened to that collaboration? I wish she would have come and talked to us about part of the reason it sounded like contract language. It was deliberate. Like, we looked at the contract, and we didn't just look at Elk Grove. We looked at Stockton Unified. We looked at Lincoln. We looked at all sorts of neighboring districts. We spent 18 months really studying and being very careful about how that document came together. So, you know, I just really hope we get back on track to what we do well, and that's that collaboration and communication and working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Lana?
Lori Celeste, I'm a teacher at Ansel Adams. I'm also on the exec board, and Jen said it very eloquently, when we received the bargaining report and learned that their work was just crossed out, that's highly offensive. And I was part of the meeting, the study session, where this was presented to the board, and it was I don't know how you call those study sessions, it was a little informal, but the feedback was nothing but positive, and so we were very shocked. And just as a teacher and also a professional developer, I do professional development outside of Lodi Unified. I do it statewide, and I also am a virtual coach for NEA, where I do that nationwide. We need to bring Lodi up, and our teachers and our admin on the ARBET committee have dedicated hundreds of hours, and just to cross out their work is extremely offensive and disrespectful, and I would just ask that you please respect their work. They put a lot of research into this. They put a lot of hard sacrifices away from their family and their teaching, and they're buried at the bottom of the agenda at 11 o'clock at night, and here they sit. So thank you to the ARBET members that hang in there, and please, I would just ask that you respect their work. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? Who crossed everything out?
That was what we wondered, but.
Was it LEA? Was it the district? What was it?
District. We looked at it from the aspect of, okay.
Wait a minute now, don't get all.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to people who went, whoa, what a minute.
Oh, okay. No, I was just gonna explain, I mean, one of the
So it
thoughts
was the district crossed it out.
Right, and it was a suggestion, okay? And the suggestion was based on trying not to have too many things in too many different places.
Was this ever communicated to anybody, but just done by us?
Was it, I think they all knew it was done by us, yeah.
No, I mean, but did we communicate what we were doing, or we just decided to?
I don't know, I wasn't there.
So who decided to cross all that out and bring it to LEA?
I said that, yeah, let's do that, because the idea was that You don't want it in two different places, because if something changes, you have to put, you have to change it in both places. So if you come up, if there is a discrepancy, what do you go with? Which side do you go with? Now, we've come up with another way.
So let's cut to the chase.
Right.
Unredacted.
It's unredacted.
Okay.
I spent all night Friday night and all day Saturday taking that stuff out and putting it back the way it was. And came up with one little paragraph that may be able to fix.
So we listened,
the other problem.
we made changes.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank
In
you.
other words, it was broken, and then we're gonna fix it.
Right. And we broke it.
It wasn't.
I mean,
It wasn't broken, but somebody broke it, now we gotta fix it.
Well, no, it's fixed.
Okay, so that's good. I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
That's right.
What's that?
We look forward to, in negotiations, there's give and take, and there's discussions, and I have to acknowledge, and I would ask that the RBET members that are standing in the room that put in all that time kind of raise their hand. I know they're tired. Unfortunately, their counterparts, the admin, are not here. It was a joint effort, and we hope to get back to the table and look at how we can look at the entire document as a whole and negotiate that. So we look forward to that.
Okay, we're back where we were. All right.
I believe so.
So,
We have a date and a time in the afternoon. This part, the IPD, remember, is kind of married to the evaluation process that we're piloting next year. So, my teachers have vacations, lined up for summer, so I don't know how much can get done in that one afternoon, but we are optimistic.
Mr. President?
Yes.
When we had that study session, it was over at Lincoln Tech. I think Ms. Castle may have referenced that. Wow, what an absolutely dynamic presentation. And I gotta tell you, I went, yes, this is it. We're heading in the right direction. And I think everybody knows when we were going into this that there would be adjustments, there would be setbacks, there would be problems that we have to resolve. All I can say is I hear you, and we're going to get back on track, and it's going to work. It's got to do it. So anyway, thank you for your efforts. Appreciate it.
Any other comments? Anybody want to go home?
Move to adjourn.
Got a second? Okay. What?
No. Who's the head of that novice?